See, this is the problem. I don't have enough time, even between the stream going live and off, to even plan a visual gag. And I'm like, I could be a Poro, I could have a
I
Lapras
could
on
have.
there.
I have a.
Instead, we've got a Rek'Sai and a Kai'Sa. Wow, cool. Well,
Anyway,
that's nice.
continuing, yes, we do have some picks and bans to come to. Apologies for that. We had some technical difficulties where some programs for streaming crashed, which was a little unhelpful for, bringing this out live to you all. But that does mean we've got a surprise number of picks to get through to you. Specifically, Kai'Sa has been paired up with the Thresh for Monster Rugby Gaming alongside the Rek'Sai. And the other side, we've got Ezreal Karma, which could be a bot lane duo, or of course could be Karma going to one of the solo lanes as well.
It can be. So Ezreal has been gaining a lot of popularity going Essence Reaver into Duskblade. We saw that once last week. I'm trying to remember who it was from when I was casting. No, my mind is drawing a blank because I'm not clever like that. So we've got the Ezreal and Karma in. So yeah, that is a really dominant bot lane if you do want to do that. And one of the things is that Kai'Sa has largely survived in a lot of lanes because she isn't being outranged by anyone. If you are a good enough Ezreal, any lane can be a bully lane if you hit enough Qs. So there's always that chance that Kai'Sa and Thresh are going to start getting pushed around, and also the Karma can help with that if it does go towards the bot lane. Speaking of that Thresh on the other side, though, that was first pick, and one of the things that we've been speaking about Viperia for is that Hass is just very good at that champion. It's always a worthy takeaway. Taking away as a first pick, though, that's a real statement from Munster just saying, yes, I mean, you're not the only good player of Thresh, and we do think it is worth denying you that pick.
And of course, it's just the new guy stepping into the roster being given first pick priority or Raisins just gets the Thresh straight out. Unless there is some real weirdness going on, that is a solo lane Thresh, which would throw us all for a massive loop. I suppose
I haven't prepped that one, funnily enough.
No, neither have I. Crit Thresh on its way to a solo queue game near you. It is the Lucian and the Camille that are the bans for Monster Rugby Gaming, which are kind of two high-priority solo laners. The other side, though, is the Malphite, which we kind of mentioned beforehand, something that I know Synapse has picked up in the past. And then, obviously, Nocturne as well, which is very much focused at that jungle role, even if Vedius would like to disagree fairly heavily with that.
I have to say, I really love Nocturne, and I do right now in the current meta, because when you have really long-range backlines, like Orianna, Karma's kind of up there too, in the Ezreal, you need something that has that target access. So for me, that's Orianna with a Jarvan, Rumble coming into a Nocturne. The Nocturne is probably the one thing, and actually, I mean, given the ban there, actually it was probably targeted towards
I just realized, I just looked up and went, wait, Rek'Sai's already locked in? I was going to have
that
like, conversation.
aha, yes, let's make jokes about that one thing. I'm like, wait, no, it's relevant? Oh, crap,
It's
right.
kinda relevant,
Well, another
right.
thing that apparently is relevant is that Gnar. Both of these top laners have played a bit of it, and in 4, now has to look at this and kind of go, alright, what are you going to pick into Gnar? Is it going to be something like the Gangplank again? That has been their go-to with a lot of these games.
Yeah, and Gnar's a bit of a weird one, because you can counter-pick him, but the counter-picks are very aggressive often. It's things like Irelia, which you need to go well. There is a world where you pick Irelia into Gnar, you find yourself in a 1v1, and it's not a 1v1 for very long. Yeah, Jace as well. But similarly, there is this kind of need to get ahead in a lot of those picks. They have, however, gone towards the Wukong, which didn't go very well for Bwipo over for Fnatic the other day, but the idea is sound in some ways. It is a great team-fighting champion. You throw the ball on there, and Karma speeds you up, and suddenly you've got a whirling dervish of shockwave destruction.
Whirling dervish, that's a good phrase. I mean, I mean, we say that, unless it's going to be Wukong, no, it's not going to be Wukong support.
I mean, Kaiser's around somewhere.
Need to have, yeah, true. Need to have the center on board, really, for that to work out, though. So, I mean, I'm looking at Viperia now, and while I was thinking, okay, maybe they've got themselves a bit of a long-range poke kind of comp, now, actually, they've got a decent amount of wombo, right? Because you can walk in with the Wukong, and you can have the Orianna and the Ezreal flying over. That's enough to kill a Ryze or a Kai'Sa. The question is, can Munster start shutting down some of these individual pieces because they don't have the tankiest or most survivable frontline? What happens if Ryze manages to catch out the Udyr as he's running towards you? Because that's one of the problems with Udyr. He only runs at you, and that means that Ryze, if he's quick enough on his fingers, can just get out that EW, root him in place, get the Q afterwards, and he just runs away with phase rush. You don't catch that Ryze, and Udyr can often get locked up in the front of a team fight.
My eyes also turn over to the Rek'Sai as something that is very aggressive level 3 ganker. The tunnels allow you to get over walls, get into backlines, find unusual routes, not necessarily burn your CC with your gap close, which is a little unusual for a lot of junglers. Your gap closer is not your CC, which is a really nice touch for that Rek'Sai. And curious to see what Goose does with this, especially because you do want to get things going early on, because a Rek'Sai that's kind of not made much of an impact coming into mid-game teamfights can have a very tricky life, to be honest, because you go in, you burn your ultimate, you try and go 1-for-1 a priority target, and then you're not really guaranteed to get out, if at all.
No, and I mean, I look at Rek'Sai, and I think Rek'Sai is probably the best mid-ganking champion currently in meta, right? Because of that flash and borrow after you tunnel forwards. And you do that with a Ryze, you can also flash Rune Prison going forwards too. I look at Killikin, who has been caught out in early lane in a number of games, right? We saw it in their last game, versus Lucendi. Yes, that was the one. I'm just trying to remember if it, because see, the problem was that I remember seeing like the yellow logo. I'm like, is that Hive? No, it's definitely not Hive, so it must be Lucendi. So we saw that Killikin did end up getting caught out, even at the level 1 mark, when we saw like an early jungle gank coming in. It was a set jungle again, who is a pretty good early ganker, and along the same vein as something like a Rek'Sai. And then, heck, even going back to the Demise game, where you had like some really unorthodox roams coming in from Sin in that top lane, running down to the mid lane as the top lane Kaiser and picking off that Galio. Now, it's not always their own fault, don't get me wrong, but sometimes you just sat there and I'm like, all right, is this another game where they could hard force onto Killikin and maybe make something in the mid lane?
I've also got to keep my eyes a little bit down towards potentially this bot lane as well with the Ezreal Karma, which generally speaking has got incredible level 1 priority. You just get to shove the wave really hard, and that's even with some nerfs that have come through over the years towards like sort of Q, both champions Qs, to prevent that wave shove from being so obvious. But there is a world as well where like potentially John Rico gets control over that bot side river because of the pressure, but the other side, of course, is Ezreal Karma love an uninterfered lane, and if Rek'Sai comes in behind them, it could be a bit tricky.
There is that, and I mean, Ezreal's always going to have the Arcane Shift.
Yes.
There is a chance you actually get blown up a bit as the Rek'Sai coming in. Particularly, there's going to be a point where Ezreal will be a real damage threat, because when you get your 2 items plus boots combo, I think you get up to about 65 ability haste, which is
That's huge.
Quite a lot. It's quite a lot. I mean, it's not quite the 45% you got off the old items, but you end up getting more than that eventually, actually, with that build. I think it's when you get up to about 80 or 90 ability haste. I think you finally crest over that point. But I think so once you get like a Cyrilda's Grudge afterwards, so when you get 3 items and boots, I think you actually get more effective cooldown reduction than you did in that last patch. Someone can correct me on my maths if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how it ends up working out, which is a pretty terrifying perspective when you have this Ezreal who gets to build huge amounts of armor pen and also has like a strange amount of crit thrown in as well from the Essence Reaver, where your auto attacks start slapping. You don't have something like the Muramana to have the extra on hit damage from that, but your item spikes are actually much more smooth than you could have had in previous patches. So this Ezreal, going against relatively short range champions, Kai'Sa, Rek'Sai, and Ryze, if Kaz manages to judge the team fights correctly, which they have struggled to do at some points, but then again, they get pentakills too, so who am I to judge, right? Could absolutely carry this game for the side of Hyperion.
Nightmare, just to double check, are you telling me that Ezreal, I can't talk about a 2-item spike in the same way as before? That it's not the same. What am I going to do with my talking points about this champion? What it's all gone wrong.
You kind of can. You can talk about him being you can talk about him going invisible if he goes for Duskblade. I mean, there is every chance he goes to the Divine Sunder as well. I don't think this is the game for it. I think that with the poke you can put out with the lethality build and just bluntly the power of this new Duskblade build, we're going for the Essence Reaver first, so kind of similar to what we see with the Essence Reaver into Shield Bow for the Gangplank top lane and stuff like that. You don't need to build that Mythic first. You end up getting a really nice Sheen Spike, because sometimes the Divine Sunder or the Triforce just don't really fit what you want in a certain game, so you go for the Essence Reaver and you find whatever Mythic kind of works best with it. Turns out Duskblade, lethality is not bad on Ezreal. Turns out every stat is good on Ezreal for some reason. And then getting ability haste as that Mythic passive just kind of tips it over the edge and says, alright, okay, let's go for it.
Yeah. Where you used to be capped at 45% early on, now the 2-item spike becomes a 3 and 4-item spike, because all that ability is so powerful on the champion. It really is. Just the ability to have your
at least it's not like
shift as often as you can, Mystic Shots, all the rest of it.
At least it's not like there was briefly a phase when people were going Duskblade Ezreal back with the old items. It would have been sometime season 8 or something, where this was when Duskblade slowed on ranged autos too.
Yes,
so you just hop into vision, hop out of vision, and hop back in, just like boop. Cool. Just keep tagging them over and over, and the slows will keep coming through. And so the game comes through now, segueing into that one.
Yeah, it does indeed, and we've done a bit of a chat, bit of a deep dive onto what we're expecting out of the Ezreal build here, as it is a little bit newer tech, but the rest of it, I feel, should be a little bit more known to people. It's looking like a 5-man fam from both of our teams, so I don't think we're looking for any serious level 1 shenanigans. I'll be curious to see what Goose builds. I'm assuming it will be the Prowler's Claw, which seems to be go-to on Rek'Sai most of these days, and the likes of Blabber, I suppose, most famously at the minute, definitely running that tech, and it does allow a bit more target access onto people like the Orianna, or potentially to chase down an Ezreal who tries to Arcane Shift away. So I think that would be my go-to, unless you've got some further information for me here, Nightmare.
No, I think you're pretty bang on there. So what I'm saying is we must unloose the goose. That is, at the end of the day, that's what it all comes down to. You can say what you want about items, you can say what you want about runes. That's what it comes down to.
Goose must be loose. Okay.
The goose must be loose.
Okay. Well, we'll find out. Of course, for Monster Rugby Gaming, they desperately would love the goose to be loose, to be running wild in this game. A Rek'Sai that gets ahead is a very different beast to a Rek'Sai that either gets behind or doesn't do anything in the early game. You do want to get a bit of that snowball going on. Fortunately, with where the kind of the meta is honestly moving towards the jungle right now, that's not the worst thing to be kind of going towards in the jungle.
No, and I suppose, I mean, do you remember, like, the old cycle of Evelyn? Back with old Evelyn, where you were invisible.
I mean, as an Evelyn player, yes, I do.
So, well, I mean, so obviously this was, like, old Evelyn, right? So, it was this thing where people forgot how to play against Evelyn every so often, because people would remember how to play against Evelyn, and then she'd fall out of meta, because suddenly actually just having that innate kind of practice against that champion means that actually there's less value from it. Has walking a little too far up and taking 3 free auto attacks from that one, a bit unfortunate, but just trying to get some side lane control. Side brush control, rather, but too early in the game to get side lane control, I suppose. But the thing is that if you're playing against someone like the Rek'Sai, who just has weird gank pathing, kind of like the Shaco too, who can hop over that bot lane wall on the side of Viperio and can like come in behind them even though there's no tri-brush there. Sometimes you just forget about it, and you have to spend a little bit of time remembering it, and the question is, in this game, because Rek'Sai's not been the most picked champion, is around in the meta, the question is, are Viperio ready for those more unorthodox gank paths?
Speaking of, Raisins has roamed up at level 2. Did get that in the bot lane against perhaps the run of play with Kaz and Haas a little bit behind on that level 2. That means the Goose is going to try and go in. You called it. Hasn't even had to burn flash. There's a death sentence afterwards, and Killikin will have Rise flash EQ for that beautiful first blood. Well managed by Monster Rugby Gaming.
Oh, caught shopping at the end of it, looks like. Didn't see Goose coming up, even though was on vision for a little bit of that. Doesn't burn the flash, at least. Will not even have to burn the teleport. So, in some ways, you look at this and think, okay, Polyakov without a flash, maybe there's something to be looked at in terms of a revenge angle from Viperio, but in fact, actually, Johnny Rico going more towards that top side. I wonder if this is actually going to end up leading towards something like a double scuttle, actually, if Johnny can get that quick enough.
It depends whether, I suppose, Goose on that bot side could get over to that scuttle on the bot side. And you see bot lane Kaz and Haas, who have drafted into this lane pressure lane, at least on paper. Shoved into tower for a little while now. Haven't got the pressure here. Did allow Raisins to roam, and will get Goose towards this the second scuttle of the game there. That was probably badly phrased, but the point stands. That the other scuttle crab that spawns at the top of the game. I kind of had a second. I was like, wait, that didn't work.
Badly phrased, and if you don't have good phrasing, what do you have really, Sam?
Not a lot as a play-by-play, not a lot. So that tells you probably quite a lot. But you can
have
see
a
Goose.
gank in the bot side.
He's thinking about it.
Well, he has tunnels.
Yeah, he does have tunnels. He's also on a ward now. So
tunnel snakes rule, and they rule the river. It's not even a tunnel snake. It's not even remotely reptilian, as Goose just waddles that out of there.
What is... Obviously, Rek'Sai is like a sort of void beast, Queen of the
Land
type
Shark.
deal. Like land shark, I suppose. Yeah, that's not reptilian. So that's
also not even remotely a shark. It's just very funny to say that because of the fin.
That's true.
I'm not going to throw it out there. I did physics. I didn't do biology. This is not really my area of expertise.
No, fair enough. I'm not gonna deny that. I'm trying to think, where do I go with this? Yeah, just say yeah, it's probably fair.
Down the land shark rabbit hole, Sam. That's where we go.
Down the land shark.
Down the Rek'Sai tunnel.
speaking of tunnels to go down, despite the first blood, still Viperia, they're out to a slight early lead here because they've got pretty good CS numbers from both the jungle, Johnny Recco, really taking the opportunity that the first gank gave to get into the jungle and cause some chaos.
They saw Johnny on the invade here, but he just can't. Goose just can't walk up.
I think they are going to back out of this, which I think is definitely wise, and that will stop perhaps some of the pressure, but that is a significant early camp lead right here. It's a significant early top lane lead right now as well. And that is at least keeping the gold pretty even despite that early kill going over the way, as we said.
Johnny didn't have flash for that gromp. That's the one reason that didn't work out for the side of Viper. Plus, actually, they were seen on vision, and when you're invading onto enemy side of the jungle, of course, their laners do have the opportunity to get to the play first. Even if you do have slight priority, you need to really be shoving people under tower to make sure that they can't end up responding. Synapse started walking down, and of course, Polyakov on the rise, having that first blood, pretty able now to control that lane in the way that he wants to. But Johnny is still, as you're saying, about 3 camps ahead as it stands right now, and Udyr is a strong early ganking and dueling jungler, rather. I mean, so you look at this Rex and you think, all right, Rek'Sai is probably good in the 1v2, setting up on stuff like the Orianna, probably doesn't want to tangle with that Udyr unless they have the jump on them.
Well, they might be looking for exactly that, because Raisins is on his 3rd roam of the game, hanging around looking for Killikin, who's about to roam forwards. Not like this! Flash Umbara. Here's the Realm Warp looking for a little more. Can't quite get it, though. And the Shockwave now coming along alongside the rest of Viperia. Teleport's now being someone. Polyakov is in trouble. Flash for this will not be there. Now the fight goes on the boss side. It's Haas taken very low by the ultimate from Rek'Sai. Not quite there with the Void Rush. Kaz gets that one back in time. Now Synapse in trouble, who's teleported in but has no Mega Nard. Double kill to the Ezreal, and now it'll be Dragon over as well, and that is a 2. Make that 3 for what?
But worse than that, Infor doesn't even have to teleport. That is Synapse teleporting in to die, losing the top lane wave to turret, probably losing a play, and their team loses the first Dragon of the game. Viperio come out with an early game advantage now from that set of plays, and one thing we have kind of said about Munster in the past is that they kind of overcommit towards some unwise plays. Maybe some of that decision-making in terms of, do they have all the information available? This case, they don't, and they kind of go a little bit too deep. I mean, in fairness, if that hook lands onto Killikin, that probably works out. As it stands, though, it doesn't, and Munster feeling a little bit awkward after that play.
Yeah, I do want to correct myself. It was a 3 for none, not the 3 for 1, so that is an important clarification. It was even better for Viperia than they were
2 kills go to Ezreal, so...
And yeah, 2 kills over the Ezreal. The Udyr gets 1 as well. And, you know, the fact they did not chain the CC onto Killikin properly, he got to flash out, means that they suddenly are in a really difficult position. I think you do. With the Realm Walk coming through from right, I think you could have just flashed for the CC rather than looking for the Realm Walk. I think perhaps Raisins could have gone for the flash death sentence as well if they wanted to Realm buy time, and it meant the Killikin gets out, and then they were in a really difficult position to back out, and they got really punished.
It is difficult because you look at the lack of vision. Killikin was walking up blind there. If that hook lands, then
like this,
it's going to happen again. Let's see if it happens this time.
Okay, round 2 fight. Killikin, of course, has no flash, no hope, and that will be Polyakov getting a 2nd kill of the game. And, well, it turns out 3rd time's the charm.
It does. And the thing about this is that the Raisins has been doing an immaculate job of just making sure that Orianna can just never step out from under turret, because the vision is not there. Raisins is clearing that vision, putting down pink wards, and Johnny has to be across the map doing, well, you know, the power farming jungler shtick, really, of being at Krugs, being at Wolves, being away from the areas of the game where this Orianna really needs them to be right now, and Killikin has started really suffering from that. Kaz does manage to get that cannon after Kevin tries to deny it, though, with the body block.
Yeah, that's a nice idea. It didn't quite work out. It's a nice stuff.
It's a bit of a BM move, but you know, denying can is actually a pretty big thing given how much gold they have in the cut. Ever since those minion changes a season or 2 back.
Absolutely. And looking at the rest of the map, Infor having a whale of a time up in the top lane. As we said, Udyr has been doing the power farming deal, and that has, along with those 3 kills, given Viperio a solid early gold lead, about 1,000 alongside that first rate. But apart from that, everything else is relatively even. I'm not seeing much in the way of turret plating going down either right now, though Johnny Recco has found his way into this bot lane bush, undetected as far as we can tell, as Raisins and the rest of Monster will be coming through. Cameron just walked into the bush! He He supercharged it to the blush, but will manage to Killer Instinct his way away. But that means the AD carry's not in there. That means it's a 3v3. Lots of damage going on to Johnny Recco, though, who will now fall down. Goose needs to try and find the way out. He's being body blocked away from the Karma Q's. Goes in for another. Shut down onto Ezreal. And now Haas trying to buy space, buy time. But the Rune Prism will send him straight to the biggest prison of all, that of the Death Chamber. Polyakov is on a killing spree.
And the big thing for me is that, well, In4 ends up teleporting top. Actually, I'm trying to see. I'm actually not sure if that teleport was channeled bot lane or if it's channeled back towards top lane. As, I mean, they potentially could have had a Wukong coming in who has been relatively farmed up, had that 2-level advantage coming into that play. Viperio lose themselves what they thought was going to be a good fight on that bot side, similar to what Munster did in the bottom river just before then.
Oh, exactly, and I thought it was done for them. I mean, Keverman sort of supercharged in the bush looking to be aggressive, and there was an Udyr waiting for him, but he managed to escape, and the turnaround was certainly there, and Goose got all the damage he needed out of that little fight there, and Polyakov at 4-1-1 is an absolute terror. We know what Rises can do when they get ahead of the curve, ahead of the game, and if they get to start side laning, I have got to ask, I don't think Orianna or Wukong really want to be laning against this guy.
No, and that's what we've seen from Mize. They've been playing Rise all along. They know how to play the 1-3-1 with this, and a lot of that is about that side lane allocation. Now, Rise can lose out trades to something like the Wukong, particularly when Udyr starts running into lane. But then, of course, you still have to deal with Orianna, who's now 0-2, not really the most farmed in the game, been denied a lot through the early roams and jungle pressure from Raisins and from Goose. So now you have to look at, from the side of Viperio, what are they going to do in terms of that inevitable 1-3-1? They have the Orianna on the Rise on the bot side right now, and Johnny is walking towards bot lane.
Goose is here, though, looking to trade, but I think he probably ought to have backed away. I'm not sure that flash was well advised. He'll go straight down here, and that was 20 seconds before the second Drake was about to spawn. I know your Rise was nearby. I know you were looking to try and pick someone up, but it was two people, and that was a little over-aggressive, I think.
I absolutely agree. I mean, I look at Goose here, doesn't have the Prowler's Claw yet, and Haas is still a Karma at the end of the day, able to pop something like the Alt W, have the shield, be able to really just peel for themselves in a decent way against that Rek'Sai. And now they've given up another kill, given up another dragon, and while that was a good phase of play in terms of, yes, the Rise is farming, yes, the Rise has a lane-dominant matchup against pretty much everyone in the game, well, that doesn't matter if your team is losing stuff across the map, because Viperio is still having access to farm and still getting themselves into a decent position, and that's going to be an Ocean Rift, and that Ocean Soul, always very important in games to track.
That it is, and you're asking, well, perhaps we'll have to wait a second as the Cyclone's been popped in topside, and Synapse does not have Meganar on the way, but he has got a Lantern. That might put In4 in a very difficult position. Has to flash away as Raisins, on another one of these very extended roams, causes more chaos. He's been doing a lot of that this game, and that one buys space for his top laner. Ult and flash down now for In4.
Yeah, that's a bit of a kind of almost like a throwback to Flagin in week 1 on Nerd Rage, who just walked into every single lane and ends up just winning you lanes where you just don't think you should. And the thing about Monster Rugby, Raisins, and also Caveman too, is that we saw that game against the Mize Academy the other day where, well, okay, yeah, Garen's support happened and it was a crazy affair. That bot lane was probably the only thing going well for this team in that game, where they did get a little bit rolled. And you know, if you go even against, if you end up looking okay in that Demise game, particularly because they are such a strong team in this league, that shines pretty well on you. And I guess coming out of that matchup now against Viperio, showing that, you know, they are actually a bot lane and a support jungle duo to be contended with, to be feared.
To be feared, that's what we like to hear. There's certainly some credence to that, even if the gold right now is close to very dead even. I think there's about 400, if that, gold in it, going the way of Viperio right now. And that's just off kills being very even. That's off turret plate distributions being pretty even. That's off farm differences being relatively even. The big difference right now are the Drake stacking, which is definitely where Viperio have a decided edge. But right now, this bot lane of Kaz and Haas might be in a spot of bother. I'm not sure you want to trade into this. I think you just need to back away.
Do have flashes, having to sidestep the hook though.
Yeah, it does, but that's another decent Q coming forwards, and Kaz lands a lovely little Mystic Shot, looking for the True Shot Barrage as well, but it won't land. That'll keep Raisins at a non-executable HP. The turret stands, and maybe I'm forced to eat my words a little bit there, because the turnaround poke damage was relatively impressive from Viperio. I apologize.
Ezreal Karma just doing Ezreal Karma things. So we see Killican and Johnny manage to take down a chunk out of that mid lane turret, which is important because you do have that Q max on Kai'Sa, and Kai'Sa and Ezreal are just very ample. Wave clearing AD carries won't stop that bot lane outer turret going down because of their low HP bars, and of course the power of Polyarkov right now. But if Viperio can now return to that mid lane and take down that turret in short order, then that's good for them in the long run, because particularly when they're playing a long range comp, which they need to, you know, try and keep the enemy team at arm's length and say, okay, Killican, you're not going to get jumped on from Fog of War again. Having that outer turret down in that mid lane is very important towards that end.
Okay, so let's check in with a couple items here. The Essence Reaver has been complete for Ezreal for a little while now, of course. After we got those 2 kills early, definitely accelerated things, but there is the Trinity Force and the Chem Tank for Wukong and for Johnny Reko's Udyr. On the other side, though, the moment I speak about it, that is the Prowler's Claw in for this Rek'Sai, which is such a big spike. It's the most important item they're going to get. And then Rise has gone towards the Everfrost.
I like that.
A lot of CC on that one, a little bit different than perhaps what we've sometimes seen alongside things that the Ludens have often been a go-to for this champion. And has got a needlessly large rod in inventory, so definitely getting towards a dangerous point in this game.
So I'm going to get towards that. Seraph's next, of course. Haas, oh no, they're looking towards that same play again. Munster, but Haas not falling for it like Killican did once or twice so far in this game. And I do like what Munster are doing. They've pushed down that bot lane out of turret. They're using their Realm Warp threat and that Rise threat to say, okay, oh, that's a lot of damage.
Definitely could think about maybe going for that if they were feeling very bold, but decide against it, and it's a big chunk onto the Karma, but there's about 50 seconds until this Dragon spawn. Another Void Seeker landing, though, is a little bit scary for this Karma, who will now have to back away, and that's the Warder. That's the person with all the wards that's available, and that's a bad time to have your Warder disappear. Fortunately, it is an Ocean Rift, and there are honey fruit galore to at least keep the health bar a little bit more topped up.
It's true, so going up to about half HP, and does have the Moonstone, and also it's not like Kaz isn't landing poke of their own right. The question is, can Viper now take this mid lane outer turret without getting collapsed on and a fight starting in earnest?
Like, really on the teleport, but don't feel confident to go for that. Info is now stepping forwards, doesn't have Flash, but does have Cyclone. Goose goes away from the Lantern, gets slowed down, still trying to back away. Flash in from Johnny Reko. The fight on the other side of the pit, though, continues. Info goes down, Polyarkov on a rampage, and Goose gets out as well. The split call from Viperio leads them to having a dead top laner and not getting Goose.
What, it led to in 4, using his another hook, lands. I was about to talk the first hook onto in 4. As he goes into clone, actually he ends up getting hooked whilst invisible, if I saw that right. And we certainly saw that extra hook on screen onto Kaz, and suddenly hook after hook, Viperio really falling apart in that set of plays.
Raisins has been hitting some clutch one, it really matters. 6 out of the 7 kill participation. On the other side, Polyarkov 6-1 and 100% kill participation. 6 of the kills is an utter monstrosity, and if that Rise was difficult in the side lane before, he's going to be nigh unstoppable right now.
Absolutely, and we've seen some good Rise games in the UKEL so far, of course. Kurosh sends his regards. But, I mean, Polyarkov is a player that has not really found a lot of comfort so far in it after being subbed in mid-split into this team. But if this Rise starts working for them, and with how it was working in the meta right now, it's so important for this team, because this is looking like a real power pick.
It definitely is. It's off to a very strong lead. It's a champion you want golden kills on, which is good news. Of course, Johnny Reko is miles ahead right now of Goose, you know, that 50 CS, which is definitely making him a very tanky, beefy frontliner, which could make things a little challenging, but it's not necessarily the biggest damage threat either, and they're looking for another engage in mid. Kaz, Arcane shifts away, the teleport's coming through, but that is a death sentence away, and I think they're going to try and get out of here as in 4 is going to be here, and that's Synapse going up, getting a Mega Knight backwards. Did have the Mega Knight in time, but the second Cyclone comes out, flashes over the wall, but Info still chasing. The Wallop comes through, but another Arcane Shield will get Kaz the kill, and they will find it in the extended chase.
So actually, both of these teams really fighting well around vision and understanding when the play is on. In fact, actually, going even back to that last Dragon play, the way to that Vipero denied Goose that Lanson could have ended up to a really huge fight. But both these teams going neck and neck, actually, in a matchup where, we thought this would be Vipero favor because Munster have been, they're currently sat at 1 and 8, but they're really making sure that scoreline does not affect how they're playing right now. And they've come out to some really slick plays just 19 minutes into the game.
It's about 500 gold. That is all that still separates these teams. It was about 1,000 before that play, but it is so neck and neck, which is just not what we would have thought before this game coming in. We saw Munster having a lot of issues. We saw Viperio on a bit of a tear, and I'm really happy to see Munster putting up such a good fight.
They are, and Kaz gets caught up with the exhaust.
The exhaust flashing, trying to get it, and the Acathian Rain pours down, and it is a fantastic 1v2 solo kill for Keverman.
And, yeah, I mean, Keverman really finding the opportunity to blow open something in this mid-game, because we look at the Ezreal, the Kai'Sa, what do they do best at this stage in the game? They just keep their mid lane outer turret alive. That kind of pick can lead to you losing that all-important turret, which is so important for that Vision game. And Vipero might have just found themselves at a bit of an awkward situation, because now they're going to lose maybe some pressure on that top side, lose that top lane outer turret. They haven't taken a single turret themselves, and I'm not sure they're going to have an easy opportunity to do so in the next few minutes.
That's such a big deal as well. Keverman, yes, he burnt Flash, but Kaz burnt Flash, Exhaust has burnt Ignite. That's a lot of summoners to still have your member go down in a 1v2.
And, yeah, I mean, it's a big turn of events, a really big turn of events, because now we're looking at the Gold League, and Munster Rugby is now 2k up, and we're thinking, okay, well, the last couple of team fights have been going towards them, and we look at this Wukong and the Udyr, they're struggling to close out everyone that they need to. They're not really able to disengage Synapse. They're not really able to catch out Goose, Polyakov, and Keverman. One of them is always going to be left to free fire. And now the gold is so evenly spread between Munster Rugby, and you have people at the Rise and the Kai'Sa online. It's very hard to shut out the DPS potential from this Munster squad. And yeah, I mean, Vipero now looking at this thinking, all right, well, where do we go now?
Seraph's complete for the side of Rise. He's on his way towards a 10-stack Dark Seals and another needlessly large rod. That is a very scary boy in blue. And then obviously we've got, yes, there is still Noriana who's got at least her way to her first mythic item. Yes, there's Wukong farming very well, nearly at 2 items himself. There is a world where Viperio find a very nice team fight, and with this dragon coming up, they can certainly look for it. But the side lanes are still becoming very challenging.
They are, and that does tend to be the name of the game when you do have something of Rise in the game, because Rise is often going to be the winning side lane matchup unless you have, well, it's kind of a bit awkward at that point. And what's going to make it even more awkward is a Baron being started. But that's a good True Shot Barrage coming across the team.
Udyr's not here though, he's on the other side of the map near the dragon, and it's gone down. Munster Rugby take it with very little contest. And Johnny Recco and the rest of Viperio caught a little flat-footed there, looking to set up dragon control, which seemed to be a pretty sensible idea. Just get punished for it very swiftly by Munster Rugby Gaming. Good call.
Really well played from Munster Rugby to notice. Yeah, we do have the damage to take this down. Our Kai'Sa, of course, one of the baddest Baron killing champions of the game, and Rise has plenty of single target DPS. Soul point to Viperio, but can they even survive the next 5 minutes versus this Baron buffed up team of Munster?
Mid lane tier 1 falls down, and the rest of Viperio now racing to come and defend the tier 2. They might be looking for the engage of the backside. In comes Johnny Recco, and the Wukong! Killer Instinct away, trying to buy space. The shields are up, and now In4 is in trouble. Goes down, Polyakov is dominating, and the turnaround engage is big. Goose goes in, but will not find the execute.
Oh,
the Void
Rise damage!
Has just not quite there, but here comes the Realm Warp. They're still chasing. Keverman is here. Haas goes down to that. The Shockwave pulls back. Polyakov gets pulled back with the Dark Passage, but still goes down to a final auto. Death Sentence misses, and Johnny Recco is still stepping forward. Still a nightmare. It's a double kill back to the Orianna in the extended trade. And this Udyr just can't be disengaged.
He just can't. He's too fast. He's too much music.
Another exhaust
comes through Kaz.
Oh, does get a 1-for-1 on the AD carries, but that is a 3-for-3, I believe, all things said and done. I thought Viperio were done for, but Udyr just gets to run through everybody and get the ball to where it needs to be.
I mean, run, stun, job done. Johnny Rico cleaning up the back end of that fight in a way that you don't expect a phase rush Udyr to do so. Ends up just locking down enough people in enough time for, of course, that Duskblade Essence Reaver Ezreal to get enough damage down. That exhaust has made some of these kills onto Kaz so close. If one of those kills finally gets to the point where the Ezreal manages to survive and they get to take a turret or two off of it, that's really, really important. As it stands, they do manage to take down the mid lane outer turret. That might help them fight this vision war a little more strongly.
It does. It also basically breaks the back of that Baron push where, you know, you go 3 for 3 in a situation like that and you're feeling pretty pleased with yourself, all things said and done, as Haas is down here with Info, but I don't know whether Polyakov wants this trade right now, even if he is a mighty strong rise. In fact, well, here comes the rest of Monster Rugby Gaming. It does force a bit more of a retreat, so nothing much more to be seen right there.
And I guess now we're looking at, you know, only 3 minutes left on that Baron, so Viperia managed to at least stall out some of that Baron Bush. Killikin looking for kind of a pick, but Raisins it has the kind of map state right now where they can just walk up so aggressively and fish for hooks like that.
And this Orianna as well, going from very far down. Attempted pick comes through, but the Dark Passage once again, pretty nice from Raisins. It allows her to disengage swiftly. This Orianna, which was like 0-2 and 3, 0-2 and 4, now 3-2 and 4. Significantly bigger threat with 2 items, and the Shockwaves, if they hit the right targets, can definitely delete a number of members of Monster Rugby Gaming, because they're not the tankiest unless there's a Mega Gnar there to really back them up.
No, okay, teleporting away. Info might just get out, but it's gonna get stopped.
The Flay comes through. Info goes down. 0, 3, and 2 now on the Wukong. That's unfortunate. Tried to get out, but caught a little bit too far up lane with no way out.
But all of this kind of folds into each other, right? Because this doesn't happen if you don't have Raisins boldly walking up, getting hooks, dark passaging people away from their own aggressive positions, and now you've got Goose and Polyakov coming into side lanes and being able to take down turrets. Monster Rugby coming back and making a statement. Remember, this is a team that is currently 1-8. They're a team that need to pick up 3 wins over that middle pack of the team to make it even close to playoffs. And that's the point where they're still going to be even at that point. They need to make tiebreakers. This would have to be, you know, the real epitome of that miracle run in the UKEL scene. And, I mean, with plays like this, it's not inconceivable, because remember, Viperia, the second place team right now, tied with Hive.
This game isn't done yet, but you still have to start thinking that if this one does come through, it's at least the start. It's at least a chance, because otherwise they're starting to run out of them entirely as Polyakov gets jumped up, and now Johnny Recco is going to find himself going far too deep. The box comes out. Kaz does get Goose, though, since the jungler dead already. Rek'Sai has got this problem as Info onto Polyakov, does go down. It's a 2-for-1 right now as Killikin flashes in, and the moment we praise them, the moment we say, is this the miracle run? It doesn't even get off the ground. Viperio find a massive team fight in their bot lane.
Yeah, going to take a little bit of a rain check on that one, because Viperio did come to a really big team fight win, and that means that, of course, oh no, if Kevin gets caught, that could be huge.
They're going to continue going under. It is another kill to the Orianna, who picks up her 6th of the game now. Much better mid and late game for the champion, especially for Killikin. Did have a rough early lane. They're going to move over to this Ocean Drake. There'll be an Ocean Soul from this as well. And suddenly what was looking pretty Monster Rugby Gaming favoured has swung right back in Viperia's favour.
It is that constant balance between what are you doing between the objectives, what are you doing when actually a 5v5 happens on an even playing field. Well, you can start going in and saying, well, okay, Johnny was caught, they had a hook onto them. Yeah, Johnny's not the person you need to catch at the end of the day. If while this Udyr is going to be caught out and having to be undergoing all of that CC, if the Orianna and the Ezreal are outputting damage, you're probably not in the best state of affairs, because they do have enough gold to put across a lot of damage, and because they're longer range than the Ryze and the Kai'Sa, they're probably going to be putting out more damage than a lot of your backline is too.
Completely true, and you saw Goose just disappeared. Pulled the Void Rush and died before it even got to be activated, and 1-5-5, Goose maybe a little bit too loose this game right now. Baron is being started by Viperio. Monster Rugby Gaming will be looking to turn this around. Synapse has got a fantastically placed Mega
3-level lead in the jungle. Huge
the
smite advantage.
There is a massive smite advantage. Death Sentence goes wide, but Viperio pull away. They don't want to fight Monster Rugby Gaming when they've got a Mega Gnar to back themselves up right now. Honey Fruit comes through, but this is left mid-wave in a bit of an awkward position, and Monster Rugby will shove this down and likely get the tier 2 as trade for the temerity of Viperia, who dared to go towards this Baron.
I have
so
no idea what that word means.
Well, Google it later, my friend. It's a good one. I
Lovely,
like that.
cool.
Probably don't have time to try and find a way to explain that one.
Oh, the
He
split
goes in
team.
for the Everfrost comes through and buys a lot of space, though Haas got rooted. But look on the other side, Synapse trying to hop away, buy space. Meganard comes through, but only shoves him back, not into the wall. Still going to be chased. Raisins looking for a lantern, has it, and will get everybody out.
Okay, but
It is
now
a
there's
dead
no
even game still.
Meganar, and there's also no flash on either Kolyakov or on Raisins. This could be now a bush bait, but the Kaiser W sees Johnny heading towards the pit.
No Shockwave, no Cyclone either, so those are two very big team fight ultimates, and I wonder whether Monster Rugby are thinking of trading for Inhibitor here. I'm gonna start
I think they're just trying to
roaming
get whatever they can, because remember, this is still a Killer Instinct Kaiser, you still have the Kaiser Ultimate, and they can fly into the fight if it does start in earnest.
Right, Goose is over the back, has got a pink ward to see what's going on, down to 4,500 hit points. They're pulling off now of Viperio. They've got waves in such bad positions. Yes, they can team fight, but the side lanes have been an issue. All mid-game to late game long. Flash in for Johnny Recco. Flash! Bear slap is the call. They get a hold of Raisins, and now it's a 4 versus 5. They turn back to the Baron with the man advantage, and they're still going to continue shoving off.
Having the Moonstone on the Karma and the constant shields with an Ocean Soul on top of it means that Viperio can consistently ping on and off this Baron, get themselves a pick, get themselves the Baron, get themselves back into this game.
And back into the game they are. They're back in a gold lead, even if it is only 1,500 gold right now, and that is next to nothing at 30 plus minutes into the game, but it could be anybody's guess how this game goes right now. But Ezreal at 3 items, that massive amount of ability haste you talked about, Cyril's Grudge is complete. Kaz very truly online despite some difficulties early on, despite being down 80 odd CS to Keverman right now. It is still a very dangerous threat.
It is, and the other thing about this Cyril's Grudge, so it is percent armor pen, gives you ability Ace, and it gives you, well, not the AoE Frostfire slow, it does give you slows on abilities. So you get that ultimate across the team, you start landing consistent Qs. Stuff like the Rek'Sai, the Gnar are going to find it really hard to get away, and Raisins is going to find it very hard to get away from
comes
this.
through, welcome to Zorn. This tech does so much work for the Udyr, who is nearly a flame horizon ahead of the Rek'Sai, finds himself another assist on the board. 16 of the 17 kills have been helped out by Johnny Recco, who has been putting on an Udyr masterclass, and for all the tools you should have to disengage, they just haven't been enough, and Raisins goes down for the 4th time this game. They're shoving now onto this tier 3, they're shoving on to try and get an inhibitor, and I don't know whether Monster Rugby have the tools to stop them right now.
I am looking at this and I'm saying, okay, well, Viper are going to peel off, but Synapse might have been caught on the top side, does have flash, so they don't go to it.
Yeah, and I think he probably still had Crunch as opposed to Hop there as well to get his way out of danger. And walking up to a Meganar is always a little scary. Alright, so, looking in, Inhibitor in mid lane down. Baron's still on for a little while yet. They're going to shove onto this tier 3 in top side of Viperio. In goes in 4, but takes a lot of damage. The shields, though, my days! Keverman caught out on the other side as Udyr runs at him. And that is a dead Kaiser and all the shields, all the heals. It's an Ocean Soul plus Moonstone Renewer, by the way. Doing so much work to make sure even these hard engages just can't be turned around on anymore. And you can't split push, you can't leverage this Rise's power if he's trapped in his base.
No, you can't, because he's just too low range to start trying to flash across teamfights and help out everyone. He has the damage, he just doesn't have the target accessibility, and he might not have any Nexus towers soon.
They find a decent hook, but once again, it's onto Johnny Recco, who took all of no damage with all the shields and heals coming towards him. He's still at above 80% HP, finally takes a bit of a chunk, and now the Nexus is exposed, but Viperio feeling a little bit wary to keep stepping forwards. Monster Rugby do hold on, but it is by the skin of their teeth. It is with no structure standing by their Nexus.
And there's the Elder Dragon in 40 seconds. If there's any way for a fight to go Munster's way, it is to steal that, take a fight around that, and then immediately just push down to the base. You do have a Realm Warp. You've got yourself a teleport on the rise. Maybe you can do some minions shenanigans, speed them up, and start throwing them towards that Nexus. Just try and catapult yourself towards a win, but you then still have to go through this insanely strong teamfight comp with the Ocean Soul of Viperio, and Johnny Rico is the one person who's just so hard to kill. You catch them out, even the Rise is struggling to take them down right now. They don't have a Void Staff, and I think that's starting to hurt them right now.
Also got to keep your eyes on double teleports from Viperio, and there is a ward by that downed middle inhibitor. If people start thinking about fights, and actually they're not even going to screw their teleports, they're just walking it down mid right now. Remember that Nexus is still exposed, the health bars are still up, and they don't even need to think about the Elder Dragon when they can just walk it straight in, looking potentially for the end here. W comes out from Haas, big shockwave, but there is the Zonya's buying down Keverman, Killer Instincting in 4 gets Gusto, who's died so many times this game. The Wukong survives, the Nexus down to 10 HP, and it is just a straight win at the end of the game for Viperio, finding a nice and relatively clean end to that game after all those team fights started going their way.
Yeah, but made them sweat. And again, you have to look at this same Munster. They managed to look very competitive versus Viperio, who are, you know, a top 3 team. They are tied in that second place alongside Hive, and then, of course, Mize above them. And you think, okay, wow, if this is how they're starting to compete, maybe all hope is not lost.
It's a really good way of putting it. And I said the end was kind of clean because all of those team fights in that late game around that second Baron, around the Ocean Soul stuff, around that bot lane, looked pretty good, honestly, for Viperio when they got to group up. But that mid game, the early game plays, how far ahead Polyakov got on the Rise, must have so much to be proud of in that game. But they're going to be so devastatingly frustrated by how they kind of couldn't quite close it out with the sort of serious gold lead advantage they had, with the serious side lane pressure advantage they have. And that,
but on the other side, yeah, but on the other side, you know, you look at Viperio and you think, Johnny is, again, just stamping their mark on the UKEL. I do think that Johnny is up there as, you know, top 2 jungler in the UKEL right now. Even when they were struggling, it seemed like that player had the right, was making the right moves at the right times, so if they were going to win games. And often when they have ended up winning games, has been absolutely at the forefront of those initiatives, right? I mean, the last game playing the Graves being the primary carry, being the Udyr player this game, and being somehow still carrying some team fights on that champion too, but also being the front line as the sole front line really from Viperio. This player has been so effective for this team, and I can't wait to see what they do next.
I'm assuming that would mean your MVP vote would go towards that guy in the jungle. I suspect it might be. With that, though, we're going to go on a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to have Demise versus London United, so don't you guys go anywhere and stay glued to your phones, computers, or television screens of your choice. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am still initialized. I'm still joined by Night. What? Wait, Reg. What? Why are you here? What have you done with my brother?
Well, on short notice, there was a personal emergency, so I have stepped in for one game and one game only, and I am here to be the caster cursor for Demise, as previously I've only lost when I am here. So,
Absolutely.
hello.
Indeed, it's great to have you, Reg. Thank you so much for stepping in last moment. Yeah, we wish Nightmare well. Obviously do. He's my brother, and therefore I care about him. Yada yada yada, and we wish him well. Everything should be fine, but it does mean he's unfortunately not able to be on camera, which means we have got the beautiful voice and theses of Reclamation, who did bring some worry to Demise last time out, Mize Academy specifically, because they lost for the first time in the UKEL last time you were casting, if I recall correctly.
I promise it wasn't me. That is purely down to Hive playing well, and I got a good matchup for the teams. That's not me.
Right.
But if it is me, then I'm ever so sorry to Demise and what's about to happen to them today.
All right. Well, they are, of course, going up against London United, who are sat at 4 and 5 right now, in that kind of middle of the pack, slightly further down, and want to try and find some more wins to bolster their record and keep themselves in a decent playoff spot. They've got Mize Academy today, right? That is a tough call, but we have seen that Mize Academy aren't unbeatable, aren't unfallible. And if you were London United, where would you be looking to try and find some ways into this matchup?
Well, 11.4 with some of the changes that came in, you're starting to see Moonstone come away, so Demise might pull away from that. They have pulled out in like previous weeks, so that was typically an area where we would potentially see teams try to punish before that came online. Whether that's going to happen today, we'll see, depending on the strategies pulled out. Patches change, strategies change. If you are, I really did enjoy their Skarner Thresh combo. They seem to be getting it a lot. Have they got that down? And the second time they pulled it out, and they actually managed to synergize it well with the rest of the team, because they were individually, those two, when they were pulling those out, were doing it well. They just had the damage ready to follow up.
If you're going to bring in that kind of CC combo, then you need people who are willing to follow up, because otherwise you bring in an opponent who goes, well, thank you, I guess. I just walk out of here now because you don't have the damage to follow up. So that is a big deal. If you're going to lock in that heavy CC, bring some damage to follow it up, guys. So I do like that call out, potentially that there's the option. I suppose to turn our eyes over to Mize Academy in turn. Soft loss, obviously still working with a newer top lane, Resultant in the top lane as well. They'll have had a look at that loss, been a little unhappy about it, I'm sure. Are there any real worries for this team? It's only the one loss, or are there alarm bells that you think might be ringing?
I don't think there should be any alarm bells ringing. You deal with a loss and say, okay, we got beaten on that one day. Is it down to a draft? Is it down to us just having an off day? You can't be perfect for an entire split. It's so difficult to actually have a perfect split. Unless you are cheat coding through the league, like, for example, Resolve in UKEL.
Sure, yeah, exactly. There are very few teams who go perfect in any split ever. Alas, for Mize Academy, that dream is dead, but winning the league is most certainly not. We are into picks and bans. London United over on the blue side does mean that Mize Academy still very much in first over on the red. A few bans that have come through. It is Seraphine plus a couple global mid laners for London United and the Twisted Fate and the Rise.
Completely
on the other side,
London United, they're hitting against that 1-3-1 composition. You're hitting the Rise. It's been strong. It even got buffed with Etherfrost, which we just saw in the previous game.
Big game.
TF 1-3-1 Seraphine for that strategy. I think they've come in and they've done the right things. And then on the other side, you've got an Udyr ban, the Senna ban, which is buffed now because of Prince 2s. I'm not too sure about the Olaf pick here, though. I'm not a big fan of that. Personally, I think you just end up going Skarner, which is a different weakness.
Okay, so instead, of course, it was first pick Hecarim for Mauer, which is another one of those relatively strong junglers right now. Still clears, not a bad gank, a good team fighter, all of that jazz. Olaf definitely seen a lot of nerfs through things like Gore Drinker just being hit with a hammer repeatedly by Riot. Gragas is locked in alongside it, and we're assuming that's either going top or support unless there's some real shenanigans that throws it into the jungle. And we were putting some bets behind the scenes, ladies and gentlemen, about when Rek would get his food arriving for him. And there it is, turning up beautifully while he's on camera in the middle of picks and bans.
And that is the perks of having an emergency step in, of not realising. So you are getting me raw from bed And hello. That is the worst statement I'm ever going to say on camera. But anyway, moving on. So we have Ezreal here locked in. Your new build has come out on 3 items. You'll get a 2-item spike on that one. Gragas locked in on the other side. Great flex pick. Karma locked in on there for London United. Not a big fan, personally, of Karma on this patch, but other people seem to be picking it up and running with it. And yeah.
Hilarity aside, yeah, we just saw an Ezreal Karma game the last time out. Played the Karma down towards the bot lane. You can get a lot of priority level 1, and that didn't work out in the last game, but at least that's the idea on paper. Karma also, of course, flexible to mid-top. You can still run those shielding comps and combos, and speed ups a Hecarim. I don't think he's going to complain too much about that. Other side, though, it was a Sivir last pick here for Mize Academy. Sivir on the current patch. Your thoughts, Rek?
Not a big fan, personally, of the pick for Sivir, but what she does in the composition when it's been locked in like this suggests that Olaf is just going to be, I'm going to run at you and then try and run you over. We're probably going to see 2 teamfight comps out here. If they are going for that, the pick makes sense. Like, while I think it's individually not so great, but sometimes,
it works.
Yes, yeah. So it makes sense. And we'll see what they decide to go. I'm intrigued to what the build will be because I haven't seen this too often. Malphite Wukong taken out here, making sense for targeting Victorio here. And then Kennen on the other side, once again probably trying to hit those split pushes. We'll see what comes out here.
Yeah, so it's top lane focus for both of these guys in this last phase of bans, as we mentioned. You kind of called out, not a massive fan of the Olaf individually, not a massive fan of the Sivir individually, but makes sense as a combo. We'll see, of course, where it all flexes out. On the other side, there are London United, those first 3 picks, maybe the Karma a little bit off from what you would have liked, but the Hecarim, the Ezreal makes some sense. Ezreal rising pretty heavily in priority over the last little while, especially that Duskblade and Essence Reaver combo that's been so potent. Last ban was the Camille, so that is those 4 top lane bans, and hovering Sona, I doubt it's locked in. But of course, Seraphine ban has led such anger towards Little Pants and the rest of Mize Academy that they were hovering it anyway. And they lock in a Yumi to make sure that Olaf has even more ways to stay shielded, speed up, and heals.
We're going with the Hyper Olaf. So Olaf got hit with his healing. But the thing I don't like about this is because his W previously amplified all healing. It wasn't just his own, it was everyone else giving him shields and heals.
Yes.
So this has actually been nerfed in the previous patch because of that W change. And then you're applying Hyper Carry Earth. The strategy can still work, it's just not as efficient as previous. And now that is a really good answer. Really
It's a good answer, and it's also going to someone who's played a lot of Anivia. If you name yourself Articuno, ladies and gentlemen, you might be giving away a little bit of a hint about what champions you play pretty well. We've seen it once this split, and it looked pretty damn good for Articuno. I kept calling Anivia Articuno as a result. My history in Pokemon and my childhood was haunting me. And to back up, the Frostbird is a Frost Bear, Volley Bear as well, locked in for the top lane, which means it will be Ezreal Karma top. And that means we've got one last pick for Mize Academy to lock in. We've seen the priority to giving Olaf all the shields, heals, and speed ups he can get, even if it's been a little nerf. Orianna to add on to that would make a lot of sense.
So you're seeing a teamfight composition that is now going to be running into Anivia, and if she is, as you say, basically someone who is very experienced on Anivia, I'm expecting these walls to be used like to frame perfect execution every single time. You're going to start running at Anivia, and then she's literally going to wall off behind you and then let one person come running in and then be separated from the healing and shields. That creates a real problem here where Mize's composition has a genuine flaw that can be exploited.
Orianna, Olaf, Sivir are all extremely wallable targets, all are notorious for, yes, we've got ways to defend ourselves, but if you stick an obstacle in our way, we don't have dashes. It's flash or nothing for these guys. You can't spell, shield, or wall. That could really break apart this team comp. I completely agree with you.
Now, it breaks the team comp, and then we are assuming here, though, that it is a perfect play from Anivia, which is very difficult. You're not always going to achieve that. So, but if it's like a good 8 out of 10 times that he gets it down, it works. And they just need that only to work one time for it to actually be a game-deciding team fight. And not to mention, you then have a Hecarim that's going to go over and be or engage, a Karma that's going to shield and peel you away from them running at you, and then ideally you then got Volley Bear in top lane that's going to get prio early, to my knowledge. And then Anivia versus Orianna. I believe Anivia gets pushed in, and then later on in the matchup can then, after first base, start pushing back. But Orianna has a small glimpse when she gets more points in her queue, just because of how mana efficiency works.
Sure.
Ezreal, Karma, I'm assuming they will get priority because Karma is able to just mantra queue the first wave. So you've got priority from both top and bot lane here. That should be able to enable Hecarim to be able to play this game, and I'm intrigued to see how this Olaf is going to try and survive and be able to dish out the damage required. Because if they go to a late game team fight, they're going to struggle, in my opinion.
Look, we've seen it before. We're not so far removed from the days of Olaf 1v9ing on Champion by himself. He's definitely been hit with a nerf hammer, but if it was going to happen, this is the composition that would make it happen. When you've got a Yuumi, when you've got an Arya, when you've got a Sivir, to wall back up this Olaf. Even if he gets walled off, if he's got all those shields and a Yuumi on top of him, there's a world where he can just run at Anivia and make her life real sad, especially if you've got Ragnarok running so she can't CC him. That maybe is the call, but it is tough, and I think Rek has done a fantastic job of kind of explaining why, yeah, okay, the comp for Mize Academy makes sense, even if it's not necessarily its most powerful, say, from a patch or two ago. But even so, the answers here from London United have been pretty good. Ezreal also fairly good at getting away from people who want to run at him, because he can just hop over walls. You've got shields and heals from the Karma as well who can do that disengage. We've talked about the Anivia wall. We've talked about the fields of just slows and CC she can put down with the Glacial Storm and the likes. Then you've got a Volibear and a Hecarim who can just dive over the top of you to try and get onto these immobile carries of the Orianna, of the Sivir as well. And Mize Academy might have to rely a little bit on mechanical outplay, on just being a better team here, because the comp difference does seem, at least on paper from where we're sitting, a little high.
Yeah, that is a fair comment. I mean, the one I'm looking at here is, we've constantly said that it's about the Anivia wall, but what happens if Anivia is ever misplaced or in the wrong position? Then you just go, we're hitting like the gas, and then just yelling gas, gas, gas non-stop, and then they just basically try to run you over. If Volibear ever missteps, if anyone ever missteps, like a Karma for example, you are dead. It's very much like, this composition is going to work, but you have to play it pitch perfect. Like, it's got to be, it's very on the edge where if you ever fall behind on tempo because what of misplay, it's very difficult then to recoup that like tempo loss and actually come back into the game. So yeah,
nice little warning label you've attached to that comp, saying great comp if you position perfectly.
Yes.
Because the other side to Mize Academy, they press R and they can jump on you real fast. Ragnarok plus Zoomies plus Sivir speed up from On the Hunt, and that Olaf will be on you so damn quickly. If you find yourself lacking vision, if you find yourself a little overextended, I don't care whether your comp has got good answers, those answers won't work if you can't answer quickly enough.
Precisely. And this is kind of like that philosophy which you're seeing here now of, do you go for the better draft, or do you just take something that's fairly simple to play and realize that actually we think we will find windows because we are just better players at looking and recognizing these opportunities? And both can work, both are perfectly valid. We'll see how it plays out. We're getting into game here and just start to go through standard section of jungle clear. I don't think we're going to see anything particularly interesting, unfortunately, just given the compositions. But we are going to be guaranteed some good fights over these Drakes when we get to 3rd and 4th specifically.
Prowling projectile comes out first. Well, it's not blood, but damage. The way of little plants. Gets that nice little poke onto Articuno. The game's over, Rek. That kind of damage is you just can't come back from.
Precisely.
Sarcasm aside.
Isn't this the moment where you just type GG in chat, I win?
Yeah, I'd say it's done. You know, I'm tilted at that point. What are you going to do? Probably explains my elo, really, if that's true. But yeah, just a 5-man fan. Nothing especially exciting early on. It is Ghost on Olaf, not Flash, which of course not a huge surprise, but it's another... it does mean that, right, the wall has even more efficacy because you can't flash over it.
Precisely. And as we start to see here, first clears are going to come out. We're going to see Olaf start on his blue. Probably going to do a standard full clear towards topside. This is more so better for at 5-minute mark when his camps respawn. He's going to be on the right side to then immediately go into Drake spawn and then start to build that Drake Soul condition later on. And Hecarim here taking a leashless so that his Ezreal and Karma can get priority and attempt to disrupt that later on. Maybe even do a cheer recall if they so desire.
As the Heathen stepping forward, looking to get that brush control. That's what they get for going to help out with the jungle clear, but a decent use of the Boomerang Blade at least gets some damage back. Little Pants hops off to block a Q, and will surely hop back on shortly after.
And you'll start to see Karma versus Yumi there. Karma is going to be the one that pushes the lane. It's up to Sivir to try and respond to that, but she used Q to trade. So now it's just going to be wave priority or control over to London United here. And in top lane, we're also seeing Prio as well. So it's kind of going the same way we'd looked at. And we just see mid.
Kurosh in mid that's giving to Mize Academy a little bit of prio early on, but you called that one too. So yeah, Orianna early on before level 6, and the rest comes through for Anivia. Orianna does get that relatively easy priority in the lane, and nothing super exciting from either of these jungle clears. It looks like Hecarim has skipped out on his Krugs, which has given him a slight tempo advantage right now, and should be around this topside Scuttle Crab before Olaf is.
So the cost of having that priority from bot lane and guaranteeing it is having basically Olaf gain an advantage in the jungle in terms of his clear, which can create a problem later on. So we see people in here.
Flash under turret, and the burn comes through. You take the solo kills where you get them, and Leon takes a massive trade from the Sky Spitter, but the healing from Olaf, just too much. Now down to about half HP though. Could potentially be in a bit of a low hit point of view to fight against this Hecarim. Remember, there's still the level advantage, and Olaf at low HP is a terror. Teleport coming through, now Mauer is in trouble. Gets the Scuttle Crab as well, and now Mauer needs to try and find that out, even with the Ghost. The barrel over the wall, the body slam as well, and typically finds a nice turnaround kill.
So, in all of this, we saw that mid lane there was no prio, so Orianna gave vision onto the Hecarim earlier on, which spotted him out, which allows Olaf, once he walks into topside to clean up the play, he just immediately goes to contest. He's contesting with mid prio, Anivia can't move, makes it really difficult, and then you get the TP coming in from Gragas. Even if he got solo killed, it's really not that too big a deal.
Articuno does go down to the egg, which is a little bit unfortunate in lane, but you can kind of deal with it early on, but it means that this Olaf will be eyeing up this lane as a potential kill threat, but at the same time, Kurosh showed a lot of his health bar for that opportunity, and it will give priority in mid to force another fight around this Scuttle Crab, but this one, I believe, went the way of Mauer, which is a good turnaround because things were getting a little scary in the jungle. Now the bot side, root comes through from Karma, Fuyu flashing away, the Ignite is down, the heal from Little Pants buys time and will keep Fuyu alive, but Summoner's burnt pretty heavily from Mize Academy's bot lane.
Yep. And that could have gone really badly for Hecarim there if he lost that crab. Even though he did have his bot lane prio incoming, like, Olaf, funnily enough, his healing isn't actually a big strength like right now because he's still maxing the Q. He's still the same strength as before. He's still obnoxious to this point.
Yes.
But the only small thing we note here is because of that bot lane play where they actually traded so heavily, it actually screws up the fact that Demise wanted to potentially play for Drake's Soul condition, because now Olaf is pathing towards his top side.
He is. He's passing towards the top side. That is a bit unfortunate. It stops that what would have been a big level discrepancy, I think, as well. It would have been level 5 to, I think, 4 would have been, if I remember where Mao was. And you're right, it is a bit frustrating.
But that's the small intricacies that you're seeing now from Marwa, and the decisions he made from his first clear is now impacting 4 minutes later based on what is happening, because he let his bot lane have prio. He let his bot lane achieve a condition that allows him to stop this. And then on the other side, you also had prio from top for that 1v1 kill. There was a slow push that came into Volibear. He's then been able to take that and a small CS lead and uses TP for his own lane. So just swinging a small invade here from the top prio.
Oh, he gets it! Oh, that undertow.
That's just cheeky. You can't get away with that.
And he gets Ragnarok off it as well. That is galling. Mauer is going to be... That is a real tilter for the jungler as well. Like, there's no vision. It's just blind over the wall to get the crop.
Articuno does still have his flash here if they look for this. I don't think they will, considering he has the wall and his ultimate now, which is just going to clear the wave before it actually reaches into the turret. They could be letting it go here.
Outside though, Fuyu is in a lot of trouble and just goes down to the Heathen. 2v2 kills from the side of London United. Kunkum and the Heathen doing great work down here.
Sheen Spike coming in there, basically allowing them to be able to take the aggressive trades, plus Karma Mantra Q straight to the face. As we see a lot of trading going on in every single lane, and basically saying, let's skill check, let's fight, and Gragas is even if he falls behind, is still looking for it.
You see, Rek, we call you into an emergency cast, and then the moment you do, you're kind of forced to, like, be very careful with your colour points, because every time you start something up, somebody is trading very aggressively with ults and flashes and the like, in whatever lane we're not looking at. It's ridiculous.
It's perfectly fine. We're just looking at this, and I'm trying to keep up, and basically all we need to know...
Oh, boy. Once again, it happens again. The Stormbringer comes through from Victoria, but he won't quite find the kill. But Mize is top laner, left a little bit low and a little bit worse for a while. And I think, Rek, you might have a moment or two where you might be able to speak. Go for it. But
so,
be careful.
So there's heavy trading in bot lane because Karma Mantra Q basically beats whatever Yuumi has. It's very difficult, especially with Sivir with just basically Noon Quiver in her like back pocket versus a Sheen on Ezreal who's just throwing Qs out. And then you'll see heavy trading in mid lane. Anivia has now got her first base in where she's got her ultimate now. She can start to look prio, but she doesn't have blue buff, importantly, because of the clears that came out earlier. It's going to be coming up in 30 seconds, but it's going to be contested because she lost mid prio, and Olaf is basically at that point where the kill and everything is snowballing, where this could have been contested. Unfortunately, Gragas here, not quite with enough mana, but trading in bot lane.
Oh, Fuyu so low. Kumkum looking for it, finds it. Now Little Pants left in a difficult spot, but the minions are doing so much work, but the shield from the Heathen buys time. Massive defiance coming through from the Heathen to buy space for Kumkum to escape.
Okay, so really micro thing here. He had the minion wave that was going to aggro on him and potentially kill him. Heal wasn't available. He sees the control ward into the bush and immediately flashes to drop a minion aggro, and which keeps him alive. And then the shield comes through just at the last second to maybe clear away any of the last ticks. Really close, inch perfect there. But really nice. London United fighting back, saying, okay, we've got our strong side. Let's keep fighting. Let's keep doing it. And Civ is 0-2.
Sivir is 0-2, Ezreal is most certainly not, but Leon on this, Olaf is a very strong boy, but he's in a 1 versus 2. Typical over the wall, looking for the casks, finds something onto Victoria, but the onslaught of shadows doesn't really find all that much, because Ragnarok was there, and Typical gets the Hecarim. He's dead, but now Articuno with the blue buff stepping forward, trying to get more damage, but watch for the shockwave. Glacial Storm comes out, it's interrupted and that will be the egg form, and it'll be fried eggs for Mize Academy for breakfast, shared between 3.
Breakfast at 1 in the afternoon. Perfect.
It
now,
sounds esports life.
As we look at this, it's another part of that inch perfect part where you're saying that you haven't actually, although we say you have mid prio now, it needs to be on the next wave, and then Anivia can start moving. They started Herald a little bit too early, only using 1 lane of prio, and that allows Demise to then say, we're going to contest and collapse onto you. And after that, they just take the fight, and it's Olaf that's fed at his strongest point currently, running at you, and you just get sped up, and the wall isn't there to cover you. And, well, the composition falls flat.
Composition falls flat. Second death for Hecarim. Top side of the map not going as well as the bottom side, where the Ezreal and the Karma are doing a lot of work. But Mauer looking to try and punish. Here comes the Hecarim. Devastating charge. Will get the kill. They'll walk it out, and they burn the teleport as well. The Typical... just too late.
So the information given to London United to make that play prior was seeing Sivir and Yuumi in the mid lane, which then allows them to go for that fight. But then we see now that Mize Academy realise, actually, hang on a second, we have a numbers advantage in the mid lane. Let's look aggressively. And ultimately they just trade out with summoners and ultimates. Don't really get anything in return. So in this turn of play, London United get an advantage.
On the hunt pot, final chapter also popped, and couldn't quite keep on the Anivia. The slows just a little too much to keep that book ticking early enough to keep her out of turret range, and can't quite push with Victoria about to get engaged on the top side. But I don't know whether you want this one to Mize Academy. They're going to keep running down. They've got a lot of speed.
He has his ultimate, but no
maybe
mana.
I was wrong. He's got Stormbringer, may need to use it. Flashes instead, but does have to be popped. And I forced to eat my words a little there. I was like, you can turn it around. He's not turning it around. He's
mana,
not turning it
can't
around.
use the combo, no damage.
Alas, you may have had a point. Articuno flashes the shockwave in mid.
Okay, and it's a smart by Demise, okay? So recognition here of the game state, looking at Anivia and saying, realistically, if Anivia is alive, we are never taking mid lane turret. So now, what they have done is used Herald here to put it as low as possible, and they're going to use priority from any side lanes they're getting, for example, Gragas now, and then he can start moving towards mid lane, and they apply pressure to say, we will dive you if you try and defend this. In return here,
First
they
strike
see
of the
their
game.
top.
Yeah. First dragon of the game being started by London United, but Typical is around alongside the rest of the Mize Academy now, is trying to step in, but it's too late, it's gone down. Articuno trying to back away, look over at Typical, who's trying to get on the back of the Heathen. I think that might just be a dead Karma, sacrificing herself for the dragon trade.
It's perfectly fine. Like, if she dies, you still have Ezreal here who can clear waves. You still have Anivia being able to go back to mid lane. They pick up a Drake for losing one player. That's not too bad. We take those. And my only concern with this is, if you're going to play for a Drake Soul condition, it's going to be really late to be able to force that. So it's going to come down to Barons before Elder and Drake Soul are even online. And if you go by composition-wise, London, in terms of engage into, actually, if they play it perfectly and get more time in team fights, it benefits them. So, to my opinion, you really need to start picking up the pace with the advantages they've got now to put them in a good position later on.
Okay, so you heard it there. Definitely want to try and push advantage while they have it, because they're a little bit late on even trying to play for a Drake Soul. It's an 11-minute first Drake, so you're looking at what, 20, 25-minute earliest Soul, assuming no steals back and forth, and Drake's being taken roughly on time, you know, probably more like 27, 28.
Yeah, it's probably going to be about 27 to 28, if I'm thinking correctly, of when...
Which is late.
At best, which is extremely late. It's about, yeah, it's roughly about 6 minutes, like, that was lost. This normally, at this time, game period, might have been second Drake. But as you see here, we're going forwards, and Nidia's bow back into mid lane, and she's just looking at waves and going, haha, no, and then just denying you. And you'll never see a mid lane turret ever again with her there. And Gragas here looking to try and go a little bit aggressive, missteps a little bit, takes a chunk. Not going to hurt him too much, he's got his passive, but you know that they can get prio here. And London United are quite happy with this, in a sense, because they have a 2v1, they can still keep prioring onto a turret because Gragas can't clear as quickly as Anivia can in a 2v1. And he has to lose his HP bar for it.
He does. Losing your HP bar is certainly one way to put it. The poke from this Ezreal and this Karma, obnoxious. Essence Reaver is being completed for the Ezreal. We talked about it in the last game, but for those who are a little bit new, of course, it is the new tech with the Sheen. You don't go towards anything like a Trinity Force anymore. You go towards that and then into a Duskblade. But topside, Leon has a cat on his shoulder and is looking to invade onto this blue buff, which will make Articuno's life a lot more difficult than holding mid. Wait.
There's the trading of HP.
There's the trading of HP. True Shot Barrage does exactly what it's like and hits true. Massive kill in the bot side for Kumkum.
There's the trading of HP. He can't hold them as long as Anivia can, as we said. And then the opposite side of this, you start to see blue buff invades trying to deny mana away from Anivia, so she has to take a recall and then try to actually look for mid lane. But right now, London United are going to be the ones happy with this trade out. The ones picking up turrets now. It's just a real shame because I look down at some of the item builds and some people are losing to Boris a little bit, but we're not going to comment on that. We'll move on.
Okay. Interesting notes there. It's like a... Well, I know we were talking a little bit before the game about things like Everfrost being pretty high priority right now. Is that what you would have rather seen from this Orianna?
Well, I mean, I'm not too fussed about the Everfrosts. It's more about I'm seeing Gragas trying to build Night Harvester when he's going to be
yes, indeed,
a tank.
He is.
He's building into basically going for phase rush. I'm going to trade with you, but the thing is, if he trades and goes in, he's going to get instantly blown up. And on the other side, you've got basically Hecarim going for the greediest build for Trinity Force.
Oh yeah, well that's like that's sure like that's like come on, Hecarim's now. Go on, greedy. We like that. Of course, right, Divine Summoner is also a pretty good call.
Yeah, so if he is going for Night Harvester, which I assume he is, and then he's just got like some Kindle Gem sat there as part of his jumble sale, basically saying I want CDR and HP because he had to take bad bases. We'll see. But I'm not too big a fan personally, but it is what it is.
And speaking of not being too big a fan, Typical is about to find himself in a very difficult 1v2. Uses the cash to try and buy space, but Ezreal just gets to hop back forward, and Leon just a little too late, and it's an easy kill onto this Gragas. 2 in a row, both to the Ezreal. 4-0 and 1 now is Kumkum on the champion, and maybe just a little bit of comp difference, a little bit of more running into the mid lane, though. Never mind any of that. This is always the danger with Olaf, Yuumi. They get the kill. Fuyu gets that one first on the board, and the mid lane turret goes down. Yes, it won't be able to go down if the Anivia is alive, but you know what you can do, Rek? You can just murder her.
There you go. So Anivia doesn't quite get the wall off. Ezreal just comes over... Sorry. Sivir and Olaf basically just run at you. If you don't get the wall down, placement perfect, then you've got a serious problem. You're just going to get run over. Still had flash in its back pocket. That's the part that worried me. Just didn't use it early enough, thinking that it would be safe. Doesn't end up coming through, ends up passing away. Herald, though, traded for basically Demise being able to take second Drake here. But as we said, the Drake Soul is just going to be so late, especially when they're trading like this. So, if I'm honest, gold leads and experience-wise, you're looking at London again and saying, Herald, that's quite nice in our back pocket. Let's pick up a free mid-turret if we can.
Mid lane tier 2 as well after all of that as well. So Mize Academy may only have 2 turrets on the board, but they're 2 fairly high priority ones. Big punish for Articuno going down in the mid lane there. But the gold lead stands only 500. I speak about it now down to about 400 apart. And that's not really much of a lead here at the 17-minute mark. And you can see, looking across the various champions, very different points of strength. There's Ezreal, very strong right now for London United. 4-0-1 on the way to the Duskblade, already got an Executioner's Calling in inventory. You look on the other side and it's like, well, this Olaf has done pretty well in the early game. Kurosh as well with a couple kills to his name. Also feeling pretty happy, but a little more spread onto my side.
This is where you should start to see that nerf being hit into Olaf now, when he starts going into like the W healing in team fights, where fights are actually going to be started off. We see Night Harvester finished by Gragas here when, well, I'm not going to go there. We move on.
we've already been there. You have your issues. You'd rather see the tank. But, you know, hey, maybe you can blow people up. We'll have to wait and see.
If we actually look at the game state of what we're given now, Demise being able to take those 2 turrets is monumental for them, okay? Because previously, Anivia was just holding mid-wave consistently, but now she has no turret protection. She has to drop back, meaning that Demise are consistently getting turns because they keep getting mid-priority and then being able to move. And this is an exact moment where you look at this is a turn for Demise here, where they look for the dive now.
The dive comes through, the teleports are here. Victorio must outplay. He's shoved away from the turret, but Stormbringer's back. Final chapter comes out and Fuyu claims the kill. They'll claim the turret as well, and that was cleanly managed by Mize Academy. What are London United doing in trade though? They're trying to get mid-priority and might be able to at least get this tier 1.
So Victorio could have bought more time by using his ultimate and flash and trying to pull away and just buying time, which would have allowed a better trade here, because we're just going to see a race come out now with Sivir, Yuumi probably going to be the ones that are going to be worse off because the wave isn't there for them, and now London just keep going.
Got a Herald as well.
And Herald, but I believe Herald will potentially die before he gets his last charge off. We'll see.
Shockwave comes through, but he does get the charge, and Kurosh is desperately low! Articuno gets that kill. He stepped forward for the Shockwave and got punished so heavily for it. They get the tier 2 in mid, they get a lot of the HP on this tier 3, and with the mid laner dead, so much of the wave clear, they might keep stepping forward for wall. Fabulous! And Kum goes to be unstoppable. 5-0-2. Tier 3 is falling, and Victoria respawning causes chaos. Typical is now back alive, but is in a lot of trouble. Taking auto attacks in. Kum gets that one. 4th death of the game for that. And 3 members of Mize Academy just fall, trying to hold their tier 3.
It sounds really unprofessional, but like these Anivia walls are just busted right now. Like there was 2 perfectly placed ones in a row, and then immediately I just see Night Harvester Gragas get punished. So I'm just sat here like a happy person now, because I look at it and go, that's what you get.
This is a man who has problems with Night Harvester on various champions. At the top lane, you can hear the rage. The tier 3 at least did stand, so they lost a lot of pressure, a lot of kills. It's on about 138 HP and counting up slightly, because of course remember inhibitor turrets do regenerate oh so very slowly, but that is a small silver lining for Mize Academy, who got very heavily punished by the push in mid there.
So don't get me wrong, what Mize Academy were doing previous to this, very good. They were getting mid-prio and then trying to create a turn on a side lane by looking for the tier 1. The problem that they ran into was committing far too many numbers to that play, which then they got punished for because they assigned just way too many resources. If they had in turn actually just sent Sivir and Yuumi there, and then maybe Orianna had actually just taken over mid lane to keep clearing waves, this would have never have happened for London. And London here, we recognise the mistake, the full committal, and then equally punish in return on the other side of the map. And then they end up in a position now where that inhib is looking very susceptible for just one push, if they so choose.
It's so juicy, and this Ezreal now at 2 items. He's got himself an Executioner's Calling and a Vamp Scepter in that inventory as well, as mentioned. So 6-0-2. Very, very strong, and yes, maybe it's not the Trinity Force Muramana spike of old, but it's still pretty damn good, and hit a 3rd item. That's Sorelda's Grudge, and it gets real strong.
Demise,
I heard that gasp, Brett.
Yeah,
What's going on?
Demise here could have very easily made a mistake there. If there was a single ward that was sat where Sivir is now, Sivir Olaf just walked into closer to where London could have pulled the trigger if they so desired. Like, they could have actually decided to fight there. They saw Gragas in top lane. They saw Orianna just hidden around the corner, but she was in base, and they created a lot of space where they could have actually executed on. But they just chose to say, we'll stay safe. We'll look for the Drake instead, as we understand that scaling might be in our advantage.
Being run at a little bit there, but the undertone missing means the bear gets to walk out of pressure. But Articuno doing what Articuno does, namely finding pressure with Anivia in the mid lane. That would be London United picking up the Infernal Drake for free, though, and that stops this Drake stacking for Mize Academy they were kind of hoping for in the pre-game, as you mentioned. And gold still stands desperately even.
It's not looking
two
good,
games in a
though.
row now where it's sub 1,000, sub 500 right now. That's changing these teams. It's four towers apiece, and then of course alongside that is that gold that's very even. The dragons, it's one apart. This game can go either way. It feels right now.
And we've constantly said this for the past 20 minutes, though, that this favours in our ideal world for London.
It does.
Demise here, the strength of the Olaf is starting to fall off now. The nerfs are going to start to hit him. And then you're starting to look at and go, does Olaf have a big enough damage lead where we can hyper buff him with this Orianna and the Yuumi to say he's effective? And then you're looking at the other carries and you're going, okay, we've got Oleandri's Orianna. Great. Cool. And then we have a Sivir that's at 2 items. But Sivir at 2 items is still fairly
Not
short
3
range.
items.
Is potentially going to get run over by Volley and Hecarim. And then straight into an Anivia, which Anivia goes, okay, you're a short range carry, have a wall behind you, and you can't play. So, in reality, I'm looking at this and saying London are the ones that are in control now. They have a slight tempo lead where they're going to be able to build control over Baron and potentially look into Demise's red-sided jungle and start to say you can't walk in here anymore. And then Demise are going to have to answer out by looking for any mid lane prio they get and responding in kind on the other side where they look for the tier 1 in bot lane.
Okay, I like that little read, that analysis of where the map is at, because effectively it's saying, well, gold might be even, map might be even, score lines in terms of team wins might not be, but right now London United might be looking to cause Mize Academy's second upset and wreck.
If Garrus goes
Is it
here,
you
they
being
should
the
pull the
case
trigger
that
in mid.
This is Victorio
They should pull the
tries
trigger in
to
mid.
get out. They flash that one. They try to pull the trigger in the mid lane. Don't quite find it there. Victoria does get out in the bot side, but it does mean that the jungler, well, the top lane and mid lane are both not around this Baron, which means they're going to try and force the teleports in. London United start it up. They've got a lot of damage at this point. They've got Anivia with a lot of that consistent DPS down to half HP. There is the
As soon as
teleport
the TV
from
comes in, they
Gragas.
leave.
There he is. Just back away, force at least one teleport out.
This is what's going to happen every time because London are able to get mid priority and then create positional advantage for themselves in the river and onto the Baron. Every time a TP is used, okay, we'll leave now. And then they burn the next TP and they'll just keep creating TP advantages. So now if Gragas can't answer Volley Bear anymore, it has to be Orianna. And if Orianna goes and they do this exact same play again in 1 minute, then there's no TPs on a side lane, and then you'll probably see London actually say, okay, now we're going to commit. And after that, you start to look at Demise and say, okay, we need a fix to this. What can we do? And for me, it's now sending this Gragas with the Sivir, trying to force or create an artificial play by getting mid priority, and then trying to contest that control. You see here, you see Sivir move in, Gragas goes to top lane. No one's going to particularly answer top lane from London for about another 40 seconds to a minute, and we're in a bit of a lull state until the next Drake.
Absolutely. We've got a bit of an odd one in some ways because both these mid lane tier 1s are kind of down. There's sort of not that many turrets around, but at the same time there's not very easy ways to break through this inhibitor line quite yet, and a lot of wave clear between the likes of Sivir, Orianna, and on the other side obviously Anivia, notoriously good at clearing waves as well. So until someone can manage to force a fight or get a Baron, it's going to be a little difficult for either of these teams to really push an advantage right now.
Blue buff taken away here. Oh, Orianna hates this. Orianna looks at this and goes, okay, Anivia, we can target her wave clear by saying she has no mana anymore. Ah, she's just taken up blue buff.
She's
and I
got
don't
mana. I don't have mana. This is problematic. Articuno, though, is pretty aggressively stepping forwards, but Feels
And the
pretty
wall.
safe. Walls, Leon in, looking maybe to try and get
Yeah,
a bit
have some
more here.
damage,
The
have a
exhaust
Q.
has to come through, the two-shot barrage as well, but the healing is massive still, and that will be Articuno going down. Looked a little too aggressively forward there. The rest of the team wasn't around to punish. Now the Heathen desperately low. The heal comes out. Kumkum buying space. Did have to flash though, and typical going in. So much damage on the Night Harvester, but he has to go golden because he's not very tanky in response. Kurosh does get the bear, the back end of it now. Volley Bear, as we said, now dead. The heals, the speeds, the damage, the flash, command, attack is going to claim another. And it's just Kumkum desperately trying to disengage, but that's a lot of speed to disengage from. And a triple goes the way of Kurosh's Oriana. And suddenly, what was supposed to be a lull state is a 5-for-1 in favor of the Mize Academy. And they'll move straight over to the Baron.
Well, you literally just saw Anivia try to do the right thing, but the rest of the team isn't on the same page. They arrive late. So Olaf just goes, I'm hitting my R now because I've seen you use the wall. And I'm going to turn on you and kill you, and Articuno is left wondering, like, no, you can't do that. And then Olaf just goes, yes, I can, and runs him over. And then you immediately see the follow-up there from Demise. They're immediately going, okay, this is the opportunity we've got. Hit all the go buttons. We're running at you, and then Volley Bear's left looking at this going, okay, I can't turn into them again. And, yeah, well...
Articuno did at least get that third dragon for the team. They tried to teleport into the Mize Academy, might now find themselves in a spot of bother. Not quite there in time. So that was Fuyu who teleported alongside Kurosh. Was it Sivir running the teleport? Because she can. It's old school tech from back when Sivir was last meta, really. And Mize Academy do get themselves the Baron. But at least London United secure Soul Point for themselves. If they can hold on for 5 odd minutes, they have got a win condition on the table.
It was really sad just to see, like, Anivia going for mid-priority, they achieve it, they then look to create vision for themselves in the enemy jungle, but the rest of the team backs off to get the next wave without updating her. So then she looks like she's getting caught out contesting vision, and then, in reality, if they pick or choose one of these plays, it could go well for them, but they do both. And, yeah.
Do both, that's a bad idea, and we said this comp needed to be played perfectly, positioned perfectly, that wasn't that, but Kurosh... I've been on a spot above there, but it's quick enough to walk away from the Hacker and is looking for a flank attempt. On the other side, though, Victoria might be in a spot above. Explosive pass goes wide. Still trying to find his way out. The Thundering Smash did stun Typical in place, looking for the Blast Clone over. Will get that way out, but now kind of on the wrong side of the jungle. But the Mize Academy feel uninspired to keep chasing the Volley Bear around the jungle.
I'm looking at this and saying that probably wasn't like they can look for Victorio here. He manages to get out, and then it's no longer a use of Demise's Academy's time. They have limited time on this Baron where they need to be shoving waves together in sync. They've been able to get most of the tier 2s apart from bot lane where Nivea was holding, and ultimately you're trying to use Baron here to break the base. Like, your time is now before this next time fight that's going to come up when Drake is available, where you've got a problem. You've got Baron now. How are they pushing this game forwards? And ultimately, they haven't achieved that.
We said, well, if London United can hold on, they can fight for the Infernal Soul. Mize Academy found that big fight off some slightly split decision made for London United, but they've not made all that much of this Baron yet. You're completely right. And this was the chance to break through some of the insane wave clear of the Anivia and the like. And it's not found right now.
What Demise could have done here when they came out of base with their Baron, they play on 2 waves and basically go, we'll get mid-prio, and then if Anivia shows in bot lane with no flash, we're going to send all the resources down, punish her, and then use Baron to break the base. Because if Anivia dies, there's no real wave clear aside from Karma, Mantra Q, and an Ezreal throwing things and trying to thin out the wave. But doesn't happen. End up seeing the chase onto Victorio, buys a lot of time. Baron usage now, it's probably going to run out in probably the next 30 to 40 seconds.
And instead, we've got to the point where certain people are starting to get towards their third items. Baron does fall. Articuno walls away part of the jungle there, but Fuyu will at least claim a belated final outer tower there in the bot lane, and that means only the inhibitor rings survive for London United, which could mean that a second Baron is the one that's required, well, will likely be required to push through if they want to break any inhibitors. And that's probably true of both teams right now. Do want to touch on a couple items though, namely that's Ravenous Hydra third for the Ezreal, not anything like the Sororitas Grudge, which is kind of becoming more common. A little bit unusual perhaps to see a Ravenous Hydra third, but there it is coming out. 3 items hit for Sivir, Void Staff in for the Oriana as well. And Cosmic Drive was the second item for the Gragas as well, which I know you're saying is a great item, but not a massive fan of AP Gragas in top lane. Right?
Great item, typically for Gragas here. Gives him move speed, gives him the CDR that he wants. Really nice as a second item now with the new changes. But I personally don't enjoy it just in this game. It's really fun to play, don't get me wrong. I just don't particularly like it because I think he should be getting run over in team fights. But that hasn't been happening, so clearly I don't know what I'm talking about. So
he's got himself a Zhonya's, and he's managed to survive a little bit. I mean, he did die a number of times early on to the game where he wasn't perhaps tanky as he could have been. Some picks did come out, but you're right. At this point, he's another serious carry threat. So whether or not the tank Gragas might have been more efficient in your eyes, right now he's still a danger to keep your eyes on, especially around some of these grouped up team fights, and especially if you're like, okay, maybe our Olaf isn't as strong as he might have been in patches past. Let's just add a little bit more burst on top of it to make the job of the Olaf a little easier.
We're
That
getting
makes
into the
maybe
setup here.
some decisions making sense, but
So
True Shot Barrage does very little there because shields are a thing.
what they're basically fighting over now is priority through mid lane. Demise have been able to get there first, but London don't want to overstep into an area of no vision where they could potentially be engaged upon. Victoria is going to keep pushing here, but I think he needs to TP down if they want to get a good position for the fight, and not until the fight has already started.
This would be Infernal Soul for London United as a reminder, ladies and gents. This is a big one. 32 minutes into the game. This is a very late Soul fight. Mize Academy still 3 Drakes off their own, and actually London United saying, yeah, you have to fight for this. They're going in. It won't quite be stolen away now. Mao needs to try and find his way out, but that Olaf is so damn fast. Look how quickly he runs at everyone. Kurosh gets a hold of the Carman. She falls down. Another egg form Nivea will fall down to Leon as well. Now Victoria was teleported in, but it is too little, too late. No positioning was found, and instead they lose everything in that fight.
So we'll see another Baron given over to Demise, or are they going to look for Inhibs here? I think Inhib and trying to look for an end potentially is going to be more worthwhile because it breaks the base, and then if they don't end, they can still reset and go straight into Baron control. London, that fight does not go well for them, as I said. They didn't find a good position to fight with. They allowed Demise to have full control of it, and then you just end up getting flanked from behind. The TP is late. Victorio just didn't join in until basically it's left, and then he just looks around at his team and goes, where is everybody? And they're all dead.
Already dead is one way of putting it. Mauer gets jumped on here as well. The inhibitor is down. Maybe they'll look for the end. Body slam misses. Demise Academy think perhaps it is too late to continue pushing on for the end, but they'll look for another inhibitor tower and possibly the inhibitor afterwards. Shot Barrage, still a little bit scary. 6-1 and 3 right now is Kumkum instead on the Hunter's Pot by Fuyu to speed up and disengage, because look where Articuno is, teleporting in behind, trying to look for
This
something.
could be bad. See, Demise here, although they look for a second inhib and look for the end, it's an overextension of their tempo, because now Yuumi still hasn't base, she's kind of low on mana, the tools aren't fully available as of yet with the Sivir ult being popped. TP's coming in to try and resort and answer this, but
maybe overstepped a little here. They got one inhibitor, they got another inhibitor tower. That shockwave, though, means the jungler is dead, and it is over before it starts. Victorio dies well. The cask blows away the rest of the team, and it is now Kumkum along that's trying to find some poke, some way out of this. But actually, Typical's just coming to buy time and stop the backs, because the rest of Demise Academy are just causing chaos. Double stopwatch is so obnoxious, is causing so much. It's just like so frustrating. He's BMing, he's dancing in the river. At least one person gets back, but already the Nexus turrets are falling. Now Kumkum needs to play in the 1v3, and that freeze frame, ladies and gents, mean that Demise Academy have indeed secured the win.
Well played. And honestly, I'm looking at that and saying, okay, well played to them. They recognize that. What I did say there at the end about the tempo usage and trying to end too early gets counteracted by the fact that they just have 3 TPs, so he just immediately bases and cheats that tempo loss, and then he's perfectly fine. He's happy with that. They take the fight, and it's running over people. One person dies, so they've already broken the base. The waves weren't dealt with by London United. Gives them a perfect chance to end, and then they immediately close the door and say, no, we're done here. We just don't want to do this anymore. We don't want to fight. And that Anivia wall wasn't played around. Like, although we say it's a pitch perfect comp for what it could be used for and what it could be actually looking at, just not, the tools weren't utilized properly. And, well, one comp is easier to play and runs you over, so.
Exactly, and we asked for perfection, and that is always tough in any level of play. It wasn't quite there for London United, but it was a scrappy one. It was back and forth. It was close for 25 plus minutes of this game, but just in the late games, Mize Academy could pull the trigger a little easier, got themselves off to a bit of advantage, did manage to come away with the win. Any player that really stood out to you from Mize Academy?
I think in this game, I'm going to give it either to... I'll probably give it to Fuyu on this one. For Sivir. Although he went down in lane, you got to remember the impact he had later on in terms of just being in the right place, right time with his ultimates to support the team. And whoever was calling the plays with Olaf Sivir just to constantly engage onto the right targets. I won't know that, unfortunately, but I would probably give it to Fuyu on this one.
Right, Fuyu for those beautiful late game macro plays. That's Rek's kind of tip in this one, but... As unfortunately myself and Rek are going to be stepping away from it. When you come back, you'll have more UKEL action, so don't go anywhere, and the stream will be right back.
Hello, UKEL. It's me, Viperud, alongside Doctor. We're back after, I was going to say self-imposed exile for a couple of weeks. For Doctor, it's been more than a couple of weeks, and we're really, really excited to be bringing you the last couple of games of the day. Today, we've got Lucendi coming up against Hive in our third matchup, and a really exciting one because Viperia have set the bar at near the top of the table by winning their last game. We just saw London losing out to Demise as well, so the fight at the top is fierce, and Hive need to win this game to keep up with the pace.
Yeah, and it's, as you said, it's been self-imposed exile, so I've got coming back in a little bit fresh on this one, and to see that like Hive aren't actually Astro dominating the league, to see that Lucendi are sort of sitting pretty on that 4 and 5 marks, like okay, got ourselves a bit of a league developing, got ourselves some competition coming here into the standings, which is always nice to see.
Absolutely, and the thing with Hive is they have looked good, and of course you saw them in their first game where they lost out in the final seconds. Since then it's been relatively smooth sailing. Of course, the only team to take a win off Mize Academy so far this season as well. But as you say, Lucendi are a very solid unit currently, and with Hive, you're kind of, they're good, but they have a propensity to kind of lose games where they shouldn't necessarily, right? And with Lucendi playing very, very competently, this is definitely a team that could look for the upset.
Yeah, exactly, and it's an interesting to see this from Hive, right? That they're such a quite a storied roster, you could say, right? That we've seen these guys before. They've been around the block. There's a lot of knowledge and experience coming in there, and then to see that they do struggle with these sort of, as you say, closing out games, they should be winning. It should be something that at least like someone on the team should know what they should be doing in that situation. So maybe there's something going on with like clashing opinions or views there, but to see Lucendi then come in with this, full-on sort of rookie roster, you don't really have those issues, right? Someone comes in, they have that. So, well, like one person comes in with their idea, and everyone's like, "Yeah, all right, fine, I could go for that, right? Let's try that one out." And that can give you a bit of an edge, when you don't have that sort of dissonance going on within your own squad.
And it should be noted that, of course, Hive did win the reverse fixture because we are into the second half of the season, which means that we've got a little bit of data on how these two teams play against each other. It was Hive Central who picked up the win. We'll have to see if they can repeat that as we move into picks and bans. Of course, you can see Nice Guy Dom will be stepping into the mid lane for Hive Central this time around, replacing Disco Dano. And over on the Lucendi side, it's very, very common, very normal looking roster for them as well.
Yeah, nothing too spicy coming out. We do have your boy Shaddai, because I've been waiting to see this, waiting to cast this man for quite some time to let the world know that it's Shaddai, not Shady. Well, it's Shaddai, short for Shaddynasty.
Just sitting here angrily. You did mention that when we made our tier list actually at the beginning of the split.
I did. I made it on a tier list, but I never got to say it on
instantly
screen.
forgot whenever I've cast him so far, but should I give it up? But the first set of bans, the Zillion away from Nice Guy Dom, as per the Aurelia, also still played the last time these two teams met, so getting that one off the table. Senna and Seraphine, two very standard bans on 11.4, both going to be taken away.
Yeah.
And it's going to be fascinating with 11.4 being the patch. I've only cast a little bit on this patch so far. I looked at some new yesterday. And the Skarner being taken off the table as well.
Yeah. Kind of interesting that a lot of all of the picks actually that have been banned here by Hive are very strong B1 picks. So you wonder what sort of situation they're looking for themselves here. Maybe an Udyr or a Lilia could come through. Probably the Udyr. And then, of course, the Twisted Fate. You've got to take that one away from Nice Guy Dom as well. Because he's got the Zillion, the TF, and the Orianna. That's this man's pool. And so I would not be surprised to see that Orianna come through in the first rotation. But sure, other options as we wait for the B1.
I think, yeah, as I said, Vayne could be a pick. It hasn't been banned. Vanguard likes that champion. But it's going to be the Udyr being locked in for Wilhelm, and a very, very strong jungler, can be very, very aggressive. And we've seen already today how successful it can be.
Yeah, and Udyr basically untouched by this 11.4 jungle change. Obviously, every jungler was hit, but Udyr still keeps his strengths. He still has the fastest clear. He's still incredibly strong early, and this was a hits to golden experience across the board. And Udyr doesn't really matter, or he doesn't really mind, but he doesn't really have that. He's low budget, low econ. He's a tank. He's got good base stats, so he's fine with losing out on those, and he still has the same advantages over the opposition that he had previously. So that one can be locked in pretty comfortably.
It's going to be the Lucian going up against the side of Hive Centrals. Lucendi lock that one in. Could be going mid, could be going down bot, could be going top. Even the Lilia, a little bit less flexible, probably going into Shadai's pocket in the jungle. But we've seen Lilia played elsewhere a little bit, but that's definitely fallen out of fashion as of late.
Yeah, she's still, again, in the similar situation to Udyr as well. Udyr's a bit stronger, but same reasoning. She is very reliant on, like, base stats, and, she doesn't really have scaling on her burn or anything. So she's happy to continue to be played in this meta.
And we're going to see the Orianna, as you mentioned, going to be picked up in the mid lane fresh alongside. Very, very strong support pickup, and could be allowing for Vanguard to go for something a little bit more aggressive or something a little bit less mobile. Jhin springs to mind as one potential option, but that'll be after the second round of bans, so a couple of marksmen more than likely going to be taken off the table. Morgana going to be the lock-in in that bot side for Blacker base. You've got to imagine could flex mid, but doesn't seem too likely.
Yeah, I'm not too much of a fan of the Morgana. It doesn't really bring a lot to a lane other than shutting down the Thresh. But what I do like here is the early Lucian pick that came through from Lucendi, because they were really anticipating the Orianna lock for Nice Guy Dom. And I'm actually quite worried for Hive that they would pick the Orianna still once the Lucian has already been locked in, because that is historically a very, very Lucian-favored matchup. It's one of the sort of best things you can pick into an Orianna. Of course, you never really shut her down, but few champions have the sort of claim to fame that is being able to crush an Orianna in lane, and Lucian is one of them. So here we can just flex that Lucian into the mid lane, and then it synergizes really well with the Lilia as well, because you have this mixed damage type between your jungler and your mid lane. And then also on top of that, if you really want to get into a cheese of it, the Lucian ult does not wake people up from a Lilia sleep. It's counted as that damage over time. So you can mess around with that a little bit to your heart's content as well. But mostly, it's just to do with having a nice strong early lane to get yourself some prio in this very volatile jungle matchup.
And you said that Nice Guy Dom likes playing the Twisted Fate and the Orianna and the Zillion. Those two being banned away kind of suggests that Lucendi were forcing him into this pick and then easily picking the counter early on to make sure that they could get their hands on it. Kind of rolling the dice on the fact that Nice Guy Dom wasn't going to bring out anything particularly spicy. And that's exactly what he did going for that Orianna. We've got the second round of bans fully complete now as well. Kai'Sa and Caitlyn both being taken away from that bot lane pool. Malphite and Jace being taken away from the top laners, because that is probably what we're going to need to see. And I mentioned the Jhin maybe going into the hands of Vanguard, but it's actually going to be Highlander securing that one.
Okay, so now we got what is Vanguard pulling out? Of course, the Vayne is open, but this doesn't really look like the game for it. There's a lot of people that can punish the Vayne here if she does get in a bit too close, and it's not like you're versus any mega tanks here either. But again, I just want to bring it back. Like, what is Dom's pool here? Because this is not a great time to pick Orianna. As I said before, it's like, he can probably play other things than those three champions, but maybe not, right? Maybe this could end up being a little bit of a concern. But nonetheless, the Vayne is still locked, so it's comfort across the board here for Hive.
Well, this is something about Nice Guy Dom that we talked about a little bit towards the beginning of the season, asking the question, why is Nice Guy Dom not starting on a roster? Why is he the substitute bench player for Disco Dano? And being told Nice Guy Dom doesn't really have the
Alright. It's a bit of a quirky one.
That certainly is when you've got... Okay, Singed being locked in. We'll have to wait for production to make sure that they're not having a go. But
I think I've
Blind
played that before.
Brave.
A bit.
Oh, Singed is Aatrox.
It's a bit keen.
Don't worry, it's okay.
Oh.
It's okay. I can go back to my point about Nice Guy Dom, but he hasn't necessarily had the time to play and practice competitive League of Legends as much. This is why he's a substitute player who comes in and out rather than a full-time starter. And if you're not having time to practice comp, chances are you're not having time to keep up to date with the meta on every single champion. And where there's a champion like Orianna, who's always pretty stable in this mid lane, is kind of the quintessential mid lane champion, I guess you could say. And I know that there are a couple of those lists going around on social media talking about one champ for each role, which kind of epitomizes it. Orianna comes up a lot in the mid lane because she's always pretty relevant.
Yeah, and those are champions that you never really lose, right? Orianna, TF, and Zillion, you don't godly mechanics off. I mean, elements, but it's not like something like Nidalee, right? Who's the sort of epitome of if you don't play this champion like every day, you can't just pull out Nidalee after like even a week of not playing her. So it's always nice to have that sort of comfort to fall back to, but it does just mean that at the end of the draft, it's seeming pretty Lucendi favored so far.
Yeah, we're just going to be diving quickly through these picks and bans to make sure that all of the champions are with the right people, and it will be the Aatrox into the Ornn. We didn't mention that final lock-in for Lucendi, so having the choice to go for that big beefy tank into the fighter in the top side. And what do you expect from this top lane matchup?
It's an interesting one. It's an interesting one because this is a skill matchup, right? As you would think, not in your traditional sense of it can go either way, but it's ridiculously Aatrox favored. So the thing is that a common error that's made in this matchup is, the Aatrox gets his like 20 CS lead that you would expect, and then starts just queuing the wave on cooldown. And then you just push it on in, the Ornn catches the wave under tower, and he just stays at his 20 CS deficit and scales into the game, and the Aatrox is irrelevant. So what you have to do is you have to play to the Aatrox a lot. You sort of have to make sure that he is allowed to set up massive freezes and deny ridiculous amounts, because once you get that freeze one time as the Aatrox, you hit your level 9 spike, you get your first couple of haste items, then the Ornn never gets another point of experience again. He never gets another creep again. But a lot of players, what you end up seeing is they do just like, me Q wave, me push. They get 1, maybe 2 plates, but not really, because it's scary to go up for the plate. You're very at risk of getting ganked there. And then the Aatrox falls off late game. You're like, okay, well, I won my lane. Well, I guess I got jungle gaps. It's like, no. Did you?
Not really how the lane works.
Like, so it's something to keep an eye on. But however, I won't lose. Pretty good at top lane, right? Seems to have a pretty decent idea of what's going on up there. So it will be something to pay some attention to. However, there is a Vayne on the team. And now you have 2 sort of lanes that are saying, hey, we do need a bit of jungle assistance here. And it's going to be hard to, actively enable both of them if you're Wilhelm.
Yeah, he's going to have to make that decision about, does he want to go to mid lane and get the Orianna going? Decent 2v2, but Lucian and Lilia also have a very nice 2v2, so it will be difficult. Do you go bot lane where Fresh does have a little bit of CC on top? Of course, Dev sent it into Flay, but Morgana Black Shield is going to make that difficult. Yeah, Jin's a little bit immobile, but how mobile is he when he's got that Gale Force as first item, as we probably expect him to go? It is going to be a massive question for Wilhelm, where he decides to prioritize, where he decides to put the effort, where he decides to gank. And Shadi as well, where's the Lilia going to go? Is the Lilia going to play the game of, I'm playing my own... Shadi? Dynasty,
Should I? Yeah.
Oh, is it Shaddai? It's not Shadi.
It's Shaddai.
This is complicated. My world's been turned upside down. I've been calling him Shady or Split.
I mentioned it on the list. I really did.
We'll call him Shaddai here, because you've told me to. Lucendi, if I'm pronouncing it wrong, send all of your flame about my casting care of at Dr. Casts.
He was in the chat. He was in the chat for our tier list, and he said, finally, somebody gets it.
Well, I think that
might apparently I was the first person to get the reference.
Yeah, no one watches Always Sunny in Philadelphia, I think is the issue.
Very good show. What do you mean no one watches it? It's a banger of a show.
No one in UK casting watches it.
It's a
Phil, our
banger
producer's
of a show. That might
it.
be true.
I've never seen it. Our producer, Phil, has never seen it.
You are missing out. It's been going on for I think it's 13 years or something now. Oh no, 13 seasons, 15 years, because they took 2 breaks, but banger of a show.
Great stuff. Don't watch it now though. We've got League of Legends to watch in a couple of minutes. But
I might watch it now. I can multitask.
Not like that. You can't. It's like, what happened? It's like, a good joke happened. It's like, no, in the team fight.
I'll watch for Dynasty episode. It's one of my favorites. Many people hate it, but nothing is better than seeing Danny DeVito in a wig pretending that he's 17 and everyone just going with it. It's a flashback episode. He's a clearly 70-year-old man with multiple people saying how he doesn't look a day over 12.
Not wrong.
It's a quality app.
He looks good for his age. That's not particularly true. But talk me through very quickly these 2 team compositions. What are their win conditions? If these team compositions work as intended, what do you expect them to do?
If you're Lucendi, you are looking at that mid-jungle, as is often the case in Season 11, because the Udyr does sort of beat out the Lilia by default. They're 2 very similar champions, but Udyr just has the benefit of cheaper and more efficient items, right? However, Lucendi have this benefit of the Lucian in the mid lane. So they have the prio, they have the aggression. So they have an avenue to get the lead onto the Lilia, and then they can expand on that. Lilia can do it herself, but you can also have the Lucian stuck coming in and taking camps away and getting the lead onto him as well. If Lucendi are able to execute on that, which they should, by virtue of having this sort of big counter pick in the mid lane, then they can really start to roll over this game and shut out the Udyr entirely. On top of that, there's also a Morgana who does innately make life very difficult for an Udyr. You know, you Black Shield his stun, you bind him and he can't move, and then he runs into the middle of your team. Yeah, you just ult him. It's kind of whatever. He's going to be struggling there. But if that doesn't happen, if Lucendi just play out too passive in the earlier game, then yeah, there's going to be a CS gap on top. If the Vayne is allowed to sort of free farm and have a free lane in bot lane, then that is going to be a pretty major issue as the game progresses. And then also, again, the Udyr, he will just naturally come online faster and earlier than Valilia. So there's a bit of pressure here on Lucendi. They definitely need to be the aggressors in this situation. But the comps do work out in their favor if they can recognize that.
Yeah, so it's definitely a case of the initiative has to be with them, but they've built a composition where the initiative should technically be with them anyway. And giving so many questions for Wilhelm to answer, even though he might be the player who's got the most priority in the lane. Of course, Aatrox into Ornn, you've got priority, but does it really matter kind of vibes.
Yeah.
It'll be very interesting to see, as you said, where this Udyr is pathing, what Wilhelm can do in this matchup, and who wins this game as we dive onto the Rift for our third game of the day. We've got Hive Central on the blue side, Lucendi on the red, and lines of scrimmage all around.
Pretty standard stuff here. Starting off this one, no one for anything too spicy. We do see the boots 4 pots from Highlander, so a lot of sustain down there in that bot lane. Looking to play it out a little bit more pokey, which checks out when you have yourself a Morgana as your support.
You know, this is something we've seen a little bit more in the past few days, even with the patch rolling over a couple of days ago, and going for those boots, just as you said, gives a little bit more sustain, allows you to dodge out from these key skill shots as well with a freshened lane. You don't want to get death sentenced early, and giving a tiny bit more mobility to a champion who really kind of lacks it.
Yeah, it's always nice to be able to uke out some of those hooks, but of course, if he doesn't, then you have a Black Shield to back you up as well. So, take a look at the starts. Wilhelm starting off on his blue buff will be spotted out by Paper up in the top lane, and Shaddai going for a standard chicken start, no leash as well. So he will be found out by those wards, but I'm pretty sure that Lucendi saw that vision be dropped. So the question now is, what's he going to do? You see he does a nice little back off into that bush and then walks up and around for his red buff, so he won't be spotted moving onto this top half of the map.
Yeah, and of course with both of these junglers starting on top side, unlikely to be too much scrapping in the early stages in the jungle itself. The river obviously could well be, and Highlander taking a bit of poke there. Vanguard going to have it returned onto him as well, so a little bit of early aggression in the bot side. Is there a duo down here that has the high levels of priority in the early stages?
Yeah, it's a little bit favoured over towards the Jhin and the Morgana, just by virtue of Morgana's a range support, obviously, and they have AoE on their side as well. You know, you've got yourself some puddles, you've got yourself some dancing grenades, you got yourself a good time. As they do get that level 2 in, push out the way for level 2 crash, so this now bounces out towards them. This will actually set up pretty nicely for Hive, because this should let the Prior then come over towards Lucendi's side of the map, allowing Vanguard and Zerg to move in for that crab. And if that's not the plan, and if Shaddai is looking for this bot crab as
well, engage on the bot side. People going low. Lucendi will actually lose the first member as Highlander goes down. Black Abyss will be chased away, gets a nice route down onto Zerg as Vanguard stepping forward. Flash Flame will not secure the kill as Black Abyss goes down. In fact, Vanguard is going to be killed in the puddle. Shaddai coming down, looking towards Zerg, can't find the bowling ball. Wilhelm here to make a 2v2, but the route will land. Death Sentence goes wide as the Lilia looking for the damage, cannot find it. Wilhelm running through, flash, stun, kill onto Shaddai as he goes down to that Phoenix burst. Black Abyss surviving, but at the end of the day, it's 2-1 Hive.
Yeah, and this also leads into a double crab for Wilhelm as well. So this is not what Lucendi wanted out of their opening, and it's exactly what Hive wanted. And it's a weird way for it to kick off, because Lucendi, push out that second wave, they crash it, the wave starts bouncing back, but they're still trying to contest the Prior, they're still trying to push and fight into it because they want to get that crab for Shaddai. But this just means that Vanguard and Zerg can take a strong level 2 engage if they can find it, and we see that happens and they manage to pick up the kills. If Lucendi don't crash that second wave, instead they build up a slow push on the second wave and try to crash on the third, the wave is far too big for Vanguard and Zerg to contest. They can't look for any engage, and the wave will be crashing alongside the crab as well, securing that Shadai gets that one, and then maybe Shadai can even run through mid with the... Oh my god, what's going on? Ooh, Paper MC! He's chilling.
He's alive. He's got that corrupted potion rolling,
Yeah.
but goes very, very low.
Good
But
lord.
Wilhelm having a good time across the map so far.
Yeah, this is a great start for Wilhelm, and this is exactly what Hive needed. As we said, the pressure was on Lucendi to get an early advantage here, and it has not happened.
Not just yet. They did manage to get a kill in return, but it was kind of messy, and honestly, dying to the Morgana puddle as the Vayne is not
It's not great.
optimal. Not exactly
It's
what you
not
wanted
great.
to do, but...
Well, he did technically die to the minions, but the puddle did a lot of damage.
Yeah, there's the Flake coming back. Highlander will have the spell shield rolling on him, but goes very, very low regardless. Death Sentence lands into a minion, which will help keep Black Abyss alive, as no spell shield available for the Morgana if you blow it onto the Jhin, which means that they'll be able to escape. But with those first couple of kill participations and the first kill going over to Vayne, it's giving Hive a lot of ability to play confidently in the spot side.
And I'm just going to say, off of that, just a couple of seconds what we saw bot, I think that Hive are chilling in this bot lane. They are absolutely happy, because right there, that's a very, very telegraphed play, right? Highlander's walking up with his 4th shot ready. There's a cannon minion there. Like, everybody knows the Highlander wants that creep, and so everybody should know that Hive are going to look to punish it. But the preemptive Black Shield doesn't come out, so the Flay comes across, boom, big damage, then found onto Highlander as well. And if that's the way that this lane is going to go, coupled with the wave management that we saw earlier, then Vayne God and Zerg should not actually get a free wave or a free lane, but find an advantage, as now Wilhelm turns up again.
Black Abyss using the spell shield on himself means that Wilhelm can come through, get the stun onto the Jhin as he flashes away. Highlander should be able to get back on the tower, but Morgana, no such luck, will be taken down. Another kill on the bot side.
Yeah, and Hive figuring out where their strengths lie on the map. Now Highlander's forced very far away, doesn't have the flash.
Wilhelm doesn't either, though, but Udyr is very, very speedy. Can he get on with the stun? Yes, he can. Can he get the damage down? He might not be able to, as Highlander stepping away, and Wilhelm overextends and gives over the shutdown to Jhin.
Oh no, Wilhelm! He missed the auto timing there and wasn't able to find the cone angle either. Handing over the shutdown, but now Shadai looking for a dive.
Yeah, looking towards the nice guy Dom will land the bowling ball with no ultimate available, no little lullaby, but Limsey doesn't care, flashing forward, getting those shots down, and picking up the first kill mid.
Okay, able to find a bit back on the map for Lucendi and even up the scoreboard, but not evening out the gold quite yet. Meanwhile, up in the top lane, we can see that I Won't Lose is finding his early CS advantage, and he's actually finding it earlier than you would expect. Ordinarily, for an Aatroxy, you need that level 9, you need those, the core fields, the Kindle gems. But he's managing to get this one going relatively quick off the bat. Now, however, he is pushing in this pretty hefty wave, and Shadai up on the top side could look for a gank, but there's a lot of minions in favor of I Won't Lose if there were to be a fight, and he's got a 2-level advantage as well, so he may be looking for this 1 versus 2. Having said that, Paper MC, he's at 6, he's got the ult, he's got the ignite. Probably not going to happen.
Yeah, don't want to be going up against all of that CC and the damage, especially as Shadai picks up the ultimate as well off that last camp, so we'll have the ability to put Aatrox to sleep, and yeah, Aatrox is strong, but when he's CC'd for the entire fight, he's less strong. I think a lot of people would agree with me on that one, but taking stock of the game as we move towards this 8-minute mark, an okay lead coming in for Hive currently. They do have the Dragon in pocket as well, and as you say, it's looked reasonably comfortable for them, even though outside of the bot lane things have maybe not been perfect.
You can see that even just looking at the mid lane as well, this should be a very big advantage for Limsey. He should be able to dash in, take a lot of aggressive trades onto Dom, but we can see how far he's hanging back, and Dom is always the one that's getting the prio here. And every time we look mid to Waves in a pretty similar situation to this. Now Limsey, yeah, sure, he can look to try and freeze this, but he needs to actually have the threat of his jungler turning up at some point to be able to then punish Dom when he goes in, and that is exactly what we see here.
Nice guy Dom going to run directly into Black Abyss, but going to be able to dodge away. Lilting Lullaby comes down, but he will be able to take the lantern before he goes to bed. Wilhelm coming through to make this a 3v3, but not looking too happy about engaging that one. Dips around and then dips out. No one going down in the mid side.
And it is a little bit hard to find out these ganks when you don't have the information on the jungler and on the support, but honestly, I think that's not how you play this matchup out, because it's not a You're not going for like a carry jungler that you're trying to funnel kills onto. The Lucian does fall off, so you're not trying to funnel too many kills onto him either. And you don't have a lot of gank setup, so looking to hold freezes like that and try find ganks, it's an okay strategy, but in this matchup with the Lilia versus the Udyr, it's not what you need. What you need is prio. You need to be shoving in and taking away camps and stopping things like this Herald.
Through Black Abyss could be in trouble. No spell shield available. Will use the ultimate. Will he be able to survive the flash? Will keep him alive. Had to blow the ultimate as well for a little bit of emotional CC as we're going to see the Veins rooted up, taking one shot, but I won't lose diving in front. Nice going on. Will pick up a kill in the mid lane in return. And as you can see from Wilhelm being around and about as well, he probably had something to do with that one.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he didn't have that assist last time we looked. Maybe he did, but that is a good time for Hive. And now Wilhelm moving on in for a dive on bot. He does have the flash, but it looks like everyone else is backing off.
Wilhelm has been all over the map so far, involved in 3 of the 4 kills that Hive have managed to accrue this game. And as I say on the Udyr, a champion that does go a little bit faster than the Lilia, in most senses of the word, in the early game.
He
is
does
able
go
to get
boom.
around. He does go vroom vroom, and he's been going vroom vroom all over the map so far this game. So we talked about how Wilhelm could be the focal point of this early game, and it'll be very interesting to see where he's prioritized. It seems like bot, for the most part, has been the answer to that question, but has also seen a little bit of play mid and has had success in both areas, except for, you know, in a tower bot, but we don't really need to talk about
that one was a bit deep. But that's not a half of a map. That was like a quarter of a map, so it was different. But yeah, he's been finding himself a lot punishing out the mistakes of the bot lane, and again, because the Udyr is so much like cheaper than the Lilia, you need to shut it down with the aggressive jungle moves. We're not seeing that from Lucendi, and this means that, yeah, Wilhelm is able to run over, he's able to completely take over the map, he's getting the double crabs, he's getting the heralds, the jungle, the dragon, picking up kills, working towards that item. But we should say that Shaddai is going for the old Groomstone build, so whilst his build is going to be a lot cheaper, which means he'll be not as punished by the fact that he's this behind the Udyr, we are now losing just a little bit of magic damage that Lucendi would like, but ultimately it's still similar enough to your more traditional Lilia build in terms of damage.
Paper MC not having a good time in this matchup right now. Going to be forced to back away just as the ultimate available and forcing Iron won't lose into the air. Who can get the last hit? It will be Iron won't lose. That was very, very close in the end, though, considering the Aatrox got all of the damage in early.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the Paper MC was chilling there, but not quite sure if we missed something on the cooldowns. He didn't have that Bellows Breath up before ulting. If he did, he would have got the Brittle proc, and it would have been very, very nice, but I won't lose, manages to make his way out that one alive, keeping onto his flash as well, and now potentially forcing Paper to blow his teleport to make it back top. Always a strength. Although, Paper's actually going to walk, so he's going to lose out on a lot when he walks back to that lane. It is not in a good state for him, but he's holding onto the teleport, trying to make some team plays, maybe around this dragon that we can see Unwon't Loose has already walked on down to, here to assist Zerg and Wilhelm.
Zerg looking for something. Will he land the death sentence? Yes, he will. Right onto the Morgana. The spell shield has been used onto Highlander already, so Morgana could be as good as dead. Goes golden after using those coils and will be able to get the damage down, but Black Abyss will be the first one to fall. It will be traded with the other support, though, as Zerg is caught by a rogue binding and goes down as well.
Yeah, and Lucendi have to recognize that this Drake isn't an option for them. They have to just back off, say, okay, we're about to get 12-manned on this one, because, yeah, I won't lose pushes out the top lane, so he's on a perfect timer to roam, as we saw, and Paper can't teleport down because, again, of the top wave situation. So Lucendi have to recognize that, yeah, we are not only outnumbered, but even if this wasn't even fight, we are behind as well, and there's a lot they could have been doing on the other half of the map, but now Shaddai
Udyr looking for Shaddai. Will he be able to catch him before the Lullaby? Lullaby comes through. Lilia diving away, but here comes Limsey, here comes Black Abyss. Damage coming through, and Highlander picks up the kill over the wall. It will be Wilhelm going down as the rest of Hive decide against continuing the fight any further. The dragon was stopped, though, and it could be a case of Lucendi trying to pick it up.
Alright, psych. I didn't mean it. Didn't mean any of it. That shouldn't have worked. Like, should I just ran in? I think if Nice Guy Dom's positioned a bit better, if Zerg is lurking, I don't think that just nobody expected that on the side of Hive. And then Wilhelm going way too deep on NCM Jungle, trying to chase out that kill. Does mean that Lucendi buy themselves a little bit of space, bit of breathing room, help to even out the scoreline now. Catching up in gold, and off the back of that, Paper MC was also able to reclaim his gold deficit up in the top lane. So, a rough early game for Lucendi, but they've managed to completely neutralize it just 14 minutes into the game.
I mean, completely neutralized, there's about 1,000, or just under 1,000 gold between them, which, you know, not too relevant right now, but Wilhelm still trying to run the Rift, has maybe been a little bit over-aggressive for all of his positives so far this time in this game, but we'll have to see if these over-aggressive plays cost Hive more than they gained in the earlier stages. And Shadai trying to get away, but will run directly into a cul-de-sac full of Hive Central members and will be taken down. Zerg looking potentially for a bit of damage onto Limsey. Won't be able to find too much because Zerg's just fresh. There's not too much damage behind his whip. And Dragon once again started up. This time Hive do have the numbers advantage, not just because of the teleport advantage, but also because Lily is not on the map.
Yes, this time around, the Drake should be handily picked up by Hive, and then they can look to try and crack open some of these towers as well. Never mind Vanegod's taking a reset, so we won't see any collapses down onto that bot. But we've got the Herald coming up in just under a minute, actually just under 20 seconds, so that could be the object of Vanegod's affections when he takes this reset, and we see that Zerg and Wilhelm are moving up into that half of the map as well.
And we'll just need to be a little bit careful as Paper MC puts some damage down, but just try to gain some pressure, not necessarily going to go for a kill on the Aatrox right now, because the rest of the team is down towards this Rift Herald. Udyr and Fresh could respond to any calls for help, but really want to be grabbing this objective as early as possible, breaking down towers as quickly as they can, because right now, all of the structures on the map are still remaining standing, and for Hive, if they want to accelerate this game, some of them need to start going down.
Yeah, and one way that they could look to do that is with the Vayne. I mean, Vayne reset at the same time as everyone else moving up towards the Herald, so I think if you just send the Vayne to the Herald, and then she can cover mid, or the Orianna can go bot or something, because what happened? Vanguard ran bot, and then just did Krugs, because the wave was slowly coming in towards them. So you just didn't need to go bot. Like, you could have had no one bot. You could have had, the Vayne reset and run up to the top half of the map, tries to contest that Herald, and then the Orianna moves on down to the bot lane if you find out that you can't make a play on mid, whilst the Vayne stays mid with Zerg and you get the tower. Like, there's a couple of options there. You could also just have I won't lose reset. He even has TP if you needed it, but instead Hive are missing out on ways where they can accelerate themselves into this game. However, again, they've got the Vayne, so they've pretty much got the scaling on their side, right? So that one's always a nice insurance policy to have in your back pocket. It means there's not as much pressure to try and make aggressive early moves, but still, when the opportunities are there, you should be looking to take them.
And it could be little errors, not putting Vayne exactly where she needs to be, going overextended on the Udyr a little bit. Currently is what's keeping this game in control somewhat for Lucendi. They've got a 1,000 gold deficit at the 17-minute mark, but that is not very much. It's not even a BF sword across the entire enemy team in terms of advantage, and you've got to feel that Hive Central, after their very nice early game, have kind of taken their foot off the pedal just a little bit.
Yeah, they are slowing this one down a lot, but they don't need to. I mean, is that Herald necessary? Like, you have it. The turret's on very low amount of health, like 1k. You could surely just bring up Zerg here, get I won't lose to push out top, and he can move down as well. You can just walk that one in. You don't need to use your Herald just to break an outer tower without any plates. Like, it's fine, it's good for Hive, but again, it's just one of those sort of inefficiencies, one of those things you don't need to do. There's better ways to accelerate yourself through this game, and if you don't take those opportunities, then when you make that one mistake, or if you make that one mistake, if you throw, suddenly, once again, Lucendi will be back in an even state, just as we saw before.
Exactly, and yes, the mid tower going down is nice. Yes, sieging down this bot tower is also nice, but Lucendi are going to be holding solid for now. Not going to be too concerned, and Lucendi still have the ability to fight over objectives, and we're looking towards this third dragon in about a minute and a half, and we always say, and we talk about this quite a lot, how this third dragon is pretty a good indication of how the game's going and how the game's going to go for the rest of the match, saving any mad throws or mad changes in terms of tempo. And both of these teams are going to be going to this one very, very evenly, and with the ability that Hive have had to grab two dragons and push forward, they'd probably want to be a little further ahead, especially when you look at the champions they've got, stuff like Aatrox and Udyr, which haven't been able to find the big foothold that we'd maybe have hoped for.
Yeah, well, no, let's say they found the foothold, but then they threw it, which is not really a situation you want to find yourself in. Yeah, the Aatrox had that massive CS lead, but then with the plays around the Drake, Paper was able to catch back up, and likewise, Wilhelm was in a really good spot, and then he handed over the shutdown to Highlander, who has now found himself back into this lane very nicely as well. However, we can't really ignore the fact that although the CS is even, I Won't Lose does have 3 kills.
It's true.
He's able to work with those ones quite a bit. However, once again, because Shaddai is going for the old Broomstone, this means that he's managed to keep himself relatively even compared to the Udyr, despite the difference in kills. Udyr is still ahead, but the Lilia is not irrelevant in this game right now.
No, absolutely not. And this is kind of smart when you go for that slightly cheap build to keep yourselves on parity.
Big heals.
And you're going to be able to keep the team very happy in these team fights. As Shaddai just going to be clearing out that Scuttle Crab. You can see both teams posturing around just a little bit. I'm losing this fight is crucial because you mentioned he's got a lot of this gold for Hive right now, and the fight may well kick off, but it's an absolute minefield if Hive want to run through it because of all the traps being placed down by Highlander, who's positioning very carefully at the back. Limsey maybe looking for a flank as Ornn steps forward, blows some bellows, and keeps members away. I Won't Lose on the side, looking for Highlander, looking for Black Abyss. Damage is coming through. He's going to be rooted up. Has to use the Wildlander and dive over the wall. Wilhelm looking for the gauge on the other side. Only finds the Ornn, which isn't really the target. They do manage to land a hook onto Black Abyss, who's looking for the ultimate, looking for the opportunity. Nice engage coming through. The first kill goes over to Limsey, but in the backside you can see Shaddai goes so low already. Has to go gold and will go down immediately afterwards, even with members sleeping. Wilhelm gets away on a sliver of health. The Paper MC will not find the same result. Highlander and Limsey running for the hills as that fight goes all Hive Central, and they'll pick up their 3rd dragon.
It's a bit of a slow starter, but Hive managed to find their way through it. It actually looks a bit scary, let's say it, with I Won't Lose getting it in that flank and not really finding anything, getting his ult off and then having to back out, but the rest of Hive are in more than good enough positions to take that one nice and slow when you've got yourself a Vayne, when you've got all that healing in the kit as well, and they pick up the Drake, and now they're actually just moving straight on towards the Baron, and I don't think LCD expect this, and even if they did, there's not too much they can do to stop it, but a blue ward has been placed, and now they know.
Limsey and Black Abyss moving through, maybe trying to stall as long as possible. You see on the top side as well, Highlander moving in, teleport coming in into the pit. Can Hive Central grab this one before the fight kicks off? Nice route landing. Paper MC gets the knock up onto 2. Wilhelm goes very, very low, still alive in the pit though, looking to try and get his Baron as low as possible. Get the healing down, nice go Dom. Will get the first kill of the fight onto Limsey as Black Abyss will also be cut down. Ornn in the pit trying to be a nuisance, won't be able to find anything though, as the Baron is still so low. Shaddai goes into the pit, looking for the damage, looking for the smite, looking for the steal, can't find it. I Won't Lose grabs his 2nd of the fight. Baron goes low, should be secured. Triple kill on the backside from Aatrox as well to secure the ace. Hive Central pick up Baron on 5 and kill every member of Lucendi.
And they play it calm, they play it collected, and you can see the panic there for Lucendi once the blue trinket is dropped. They say, wait, they're really doing this? What do we do? And it's a little all over the place. Everyone's a bit flustered trying to find various individual plays, but Hive are already there. They already have 5 members in the pit. You know, Shaddai is trying to come over the back. We have Highlander messing around on the top side, and then, you know, Limsey on the bottom. It's very scattered from Lucendi, but Hive is like, nope, 5 people in the middle, in the pit. Whoever comes in, we'll just fight them. And once, you know, everyone comes in, everyone gets killed. Hive pick up the ace, and they pick up the objective as well.
It looked on a nice edge though. Wilhelm being about 300 health for a few seconds during that fight. If they had picked off the jungler, then maybe the steal could have been more on the cards, denying that objective away from Hive Central, but not able to do so in that last play, and now they're going to be able to split this buff, split their sieging and pushing power across all 3 lanes. I Won't Lose 7-0-4 as Highlander gets caught out in the jungle and goes down. Zerg will be the one to secure that kill, but Wilhelm had a big hand in it, and I mentioned earlier that the Aatrox maybe hadn't got as far ahead as I'd wanted him to, but he's definitely dominating now.
Yeah, he's found a couple of kills here and there to make that advantage happen. I mean, we should say that, again, he is going to get outscaled at some point.
True.
But that point does not appear to be right now. However, remember that every time that Ornn hits a level, you know, after level 14, he just gets 1,000 gold for his team. So even if you're the Ornn, you're okay with being down a couple of kills, a couple of CS. It's the experience that you want to really make sure you're getting.
I mean, a couple is one thing.
A couple. You do need 7? A couple. Yeah, like, yeah, you're gonna need a lot of levels to make up for a 7-kill deficit. Let's be honest about it. But it's worth for consideration.
I mean, more than that,
Pay
even,
for
you can look
he
at the
has a plan.
You can look at the 10k gold deficit currently that Hive have managed to grab themselves. Massive lead there, and yes, the Orn's getting about 1k gold at every level,
just
but
get
that's
level
only going to
24
equal 5k at the end of the game, which isn't enough to really cut in half this deficit, as it looks like an engage coming through, potentially on bot side, but should I not too fancying it, and going to be skipping away towards this mid lane. The Baron minions are being pushed across all the lanes. Paper MC will with the ultimate as Nice Guy Dom goes Dolan. Wilhelm coming through to make this one a 2v2. Nice ultimate coming down from Nice Guy Dom to keep the Orn in place, who will be cut down by the Udin. Looking to escape, looking to run. Shield onto him with the movements people. Wilhelm should go down. Survives with that shield. And he's just so fast. He's zooming away. Meanwhile, on the bot side, we're going to see the first inhibitor of the game falling at the 24-minute mark, as the rest of Hive are happy to pick that one up and escape with their lives. Vanguard going to have to tumble back towards that lantern before getting away, just wanting those last couple of minions.
I was looking a little bit slippery for Hive, but slippery was the name of the game for Wilhelm. He makes himself out away, and they secure the bot inhibitor as well. Now the setup is there for the Dragon. Going to be their soul point here. Only a Cloud Soul, but still pretty nice to have. Unless you're Udyr, who kind of hates it. But he does get something out of it. He does get something out of Cloud Drakes. His global cooldown gets lowered.
Nice.
It goes from like, which means you take 0.2 seconds off it. So this guy, is with his 1.6 second cooldown instead of a 2-second cooldown, he will be really tearing up. Actually, there is a break where you can just spam the same form. Oh wait, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't matter at all. That's
Are you okay
a
there?
different thing. No, there's a certain amount of CDR where you can spam one form and not lose your passive, but it does. The Cloud Drake doesn't come into that one.
I mean, it might help with that one, potentially.
Nah, because the Cloud Drake is to stop you. The Cloud Drake lets you switch between
Oh,
forms
faster,
faster,
so, like,
because there's a
yeah,
lockout. But if you're only doing one form, you don't care because the cooldown's got to. Udyr is a really interesting and detailed champion.
Well, he's on the
when you
list
think
to be
about it.
reworked, and it kind of makes sense when you look at it. But it will
He's not
be
on the
very,
list.
very
He had
nice.
like a 70% vote. Like,
It'll be nice for other champions, though. The Oriana Shockwave, the box coming through, the World Ender, all very nice. Even
Well-
the Final Hour with the Vayne, gonna be.
yeah, those two. Yeah. The Final Hour and the World Ender are massive because you get the move speed, right? So there are some aggressive possibilities here.
And it's not like Hive Central need help being aggressive this game, because past that little stumble they had about the 10-minute mark where things were going a little bit, and the only person being aggressive was Wilhelm, and he was being aggressive for 5 people, which not necessarily the dynamic you want in a 5-person team, but was able to. The Udyr reeled it back in just a little bit. The rest of the team accelerated quite a lot, and now with Hive looking much more on the same page and moving forward at this 27-minute mark, looking very, very dominant. And I won't lose, of course, having an exceptional game on the Aatrox. You've had the team fighting all being pretty clean, and they've managed to just clean up their act a little bit from those early stages where things were quite messy. Now the question is, how can Hive close out this game? Because we've seen Hive before not being able to close out games as efficiently as we'd maybe want them to, but looking towards this mid lane, trying to get this mid lane tower down before maybe going for the engage. We'll be able to find the tower and looking towards the inhibitor as well. I won't lose clearing out those minions to give the bot lane minions more time to get involved and try and siege up these Nexus towers. Knockup lands on the Highlander, won't be dragged back in as he's able to scarper out of that E. Does need to be a little bit careful, but I won't lose. Looking to leave. Baron up in 15 seconds, and it looks like that's going to be the play for Hive.
Yeah, Hive, take it slow, take it controlled. Not trying to throw too much. There's a world where they just flash into the enemy's faces in the Nexus or in the basin. Trying to end out the game that way, but they say, nah, don't need to risk it. We get ourselves the inhib, move on over towards the Baron, and I won't lose is lurking alongside Nice Guy Dom, so that if anybody steps up too far on Luchendi's side of the map, they will be met with a swift demise. However, Luchendi seeming to put a little bit of respect on towards this Hive composition at this point and have to give up the Baron.
But giving up the Baron is... It's very, very difficult, because yes, you probably lose the fight and then lose the game off the back of it, but giving over Baron means you probably lose the game off the back of it, because there's only one
Yeah.
inhibitor that still stands. Members of Hive can put pressure elsewhere with their powerful minions, which are very, very difficult to clear at this point. Yes, Luchendi are in the fortunate position of having 2 marksmen, having 2 AD carries, which will be able to damage these minions a little bit more, but even so, with these Baron empowered minions and whoever's Baron empowering them, remember, being able to zone off, this top lane inhibitor may well be toast, and after that, with double supers coming through, it's difficult to see Lucendi building themselves back into it.
Yeah, I mean, right now they are sort of, at least catching up the supers that are pushed in, but that is just because they are waiting for Hive to make their next move right up here in the top lane, and they'll be able to probably just sprint it in a little bit here and try and close out the game. Of course, 3 items hit by the Lucian. He's got himself the Infinity Edge, so it's not a bad amount of damage, but don't know if it's going to be quite enough to get through. I'm one who's
huge engage. Black Abyss goes low, has to go golden, might well go down on the side as well. Nice defense coming through as Aatrox starts the fight with a kill. Looking at the back, looking towards Shaddy. Can he get the kill? Turning his attention towards Highlander as the rest of the team comes through, runs past the tower and rips apart Lucendi. Highlander, the only one surviving, has to get back onto the fountain. Will use the curtain call, but it's only going to be curtains for Lucendi as Hive Central take down 1, take down 2, and will secure the Nexus as well.
Okay, suddenly just, crack open the game just like that. Find yourself one pick and sprint it right on through to be able to secure the dub there. And a bit of a slow start. Well, a bit of a rapid start, and then a bit of a slow, we'll call it the 30 to 40% of the way through the game. Wasn't quite the mid-game, but wasn't really the early game either. A slow second quarter.
Yeah.
Before then, bam, just straight up opening up the game with that. Essentially just that one team fight where they managed to get that clean ace. You get 7 kills onto your Aatrox. You say, hey, maybe we're in a pretty strong spot right now.
Absolutely, and they had this team composition that was meant to get ahead early, and they did get ahead very early, but then they had that 10-minute stumble, that 30 to 40% of the way through the game kind of slow down, and things got very, very even again, but that massive team fight that we saw, it was round for Dragon, and we saw one just after it, all went Hive's way. And this is where the Aatrox got loads of those kills, got that triple and the ace, and then Baron buff went down, Sol went down soon afterwards. And once Hive were given these tools, it was difficult to see Lucendi being able to build back in. And while Lucendi weren't out of their depth, it would seem, and what they built was cohesive, and in the early game they responded well when they went behind and managed to pull themselves back in. Once they started hemorrhaging objectives and losing out in the side lane 1v1, it looked much more difficult for them.
Yeah, and I think that there's just a sort of lot of fear on the side of Lucendi, right? That they seem to be playing very scared at certain things and playing a bit back and forth, whereas Hive seemed a bit more on the same page. And it's kind of weird because I didn't even look that Hive were that coordinated, right? That there was a lot of mistakes that we mentioned over the course of the game about their sort of plan, but when it came to the actual fights, they looked somewhat solo queuey from Hive, but at the same time, solo queue in the sense that everyone was doing their own thing, but like they knew everyone knew what the right own thing to do was, if that makes sense. So like, it's not like perfectly coordinated, but it's every individual says I should do this, and everyone else is like I'm gonna do this, and I'm pretty sure that he's gonna do that as well. So it's a little bit slightly disjointed with things like that flank coming through from the Aatrox where suddenly he loses out the ultimate and has to back off again, things like that. But ultimately, they all come together when you have those kinds of fights compared to the way that, for example, Lucendi were playing around the Baron, where all 5 members of Hive are just sitting in sort of one ball, but Lucendi are trying to find like 3 different angles in. Hive are able to clean up those kinds of fights with relative ease.
Absolutely. We're going to be jumping to a short break now, but when we come back, it's our final game of the day. Mythos will be taking on Nerd Rage. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a few minutes. Hello everyone, welcome back to the UKEL. I'm Viper, joined by Doctor, and it's our final matchup of the day, Mythos versus Nerd Rage. And this one is a massively important matchup towards the bottom end of the table. Both of these teams could still be fighting for those last couple of playoff spots, but for Mythos especially, they want to be getting away from this relegation scrap.
Yeah, you want to keep yourself far away from the bottom of the table where you can, because getting relegated, not really a fun experience for yourselves. And Mythos is a team that we were expecting to be doing a little bit better coming on into the season. Got a lot of quality players there, and now see them down at the bottom of the leagues is a bit of a shock to me. But with Lucendi losing that last game, it does make it does make for a little bit more competition down there at the bottom side. You're not quite as scared as they would have been had Lucendi won. So there's still a little bit of hope.
Yeah, of course, London United also losing out today as well will kind of increase the number of teams in this bottom of the table kind of area. And if Mythos can win, they can dive themselves right into that position and put themselves on parity with teams like Mythos, Lucendi, London, who are fighting around. Of course, Monster Rugby Gaming, very, very low down in the rankings, pretty far away from everyone else. So there's kind of, for these teams, only one relegation spot to fight for, but 2 or 3 playoff spots to fight for. But these are early playoff spots. So you start in that losers bracket, you only get one shot, and if that one shot happens to be against like a Mize Academy, who might have had an off game, a Hive Central, who we know can have off games, but are definitely a strong team, then you're not really building yourself for success. So even if you grab that playoff spot, it's not optimal. And one of these teams, realistically, is going to be scrapping for that higher tier playoff spot, right? That 4th place, which is going to be looking towards that upper bracket, those earlier games.
Yeah, exactly. You want to get yourself a nice seed coming on in to your playoffs, and no better way to do it than by picking up wins versus other lower end of the table teams. So it's a pretty good time for both teams here, for Nerd Rage and Mythos. Quality game, to be sure.
Well, it's good times for one of them at the end of this game.
Yeah,
right? It's bad times for the other because it's what we call in the business of traditional sports a relegation 6-pointer. Because winning in this matchup not only gets you a win, which of course you want, but it gives you a win where your rival is guaranteed not to get one. So Mythos pick up a win here. They're maybe out of relegation. It depends how their heads-to-head look with other teams. It's kind of a complicated one to work out with so many teams being in a similar area. If Nerd Rage win, then they leap above London United, they leap above Lucendi, they start looking towards that top half of the table where things start getting really spicy, looking towards the end of the split, and the end of the split is not that far away. So picking up wins now is crucial, and these two teams have struggled a little bit to do that so far this season. A lot of people have been very impressed with the way that Nerd Rage have played and the individual players, how they've been doing. For the most part, there's been some question marks and some disappointment as well. But for me, it's a case of sitting down, looking at the results and looking at the number of wins they have on the board. And yes, it's simplistic to say, but are you really being that impressive and playing that well if you're on a negative win rate?
Well, pretty much a no, right? It's hard to say. Obviously, you can have your couple of losses here and there. There's like maybe you threw at the very end, but ultimately, when you are not winning your games, it's hard to make the argument that you're that great. As we dive our way on in here to the final game of the day, and the sort of classic Z ban coming out here. Gotta put some respect on the Zaya name.
Yeah, not going to be giving Zyke any time on that. I just want to confirm with production because of the ordering. Match Carp in the bot lane? He's their jungler.
I did think that, but I'm not familiar with Spray. Now, I don't know if...
I'm pretty sure that Spray's playing down on the bot side, and I'm pretty sure the Magikarp is jungle. I'm just confirming that this is kind of an ordering thing as opposed to a last-minute swap ting. But we can talk about the bans anyway, because there'll be one player in each position from both sides. Rel and Fresh both being taken off the table. Got to get rid of those Chancellor of Flagian because he's a monster. Seraphine and Udyr being taken off the table. Udyr are really strong. We've seen Don Lossie play exceptionally well on champs like that. Seraphine's just very good. But Don Lossie will get his hands on the Lilia, as that's going to be the priority.
Yeah, always some scary junglers open in that rotation when you got your Lilias and your Skarners on the table. But couple of options here now over on the red side for Nerd Rage. See what they want to go with. They could just look to grab a jungler of their own here as well, having the opportunity to conceal their pick for later on, or try to get some counters going. So they grab themselves a Gragas, which is a nice, strong flex pick right here, and maybe they want to pair this up with something like the Graves, but you do need a little bit more information to work with some of those picks, and you have to assume that the jungle pick is coming through on R3, because this is a pretty pinched pool so far.
For sure. Hecarim, Udyr, and pinched, it should be said, by Nerd Rage, not by Mythos, who haven't touched any junglers. Ezreal and Maokai are going to be the lock-ins for Mythos, and Ezreal going to be going into that bot side. Maokai could be top, could be support.
Yeah, now you're setting yourself up for a very strong disengage comp coming through here if you are Mythos. Would have liked to have had the Gragas yourself there, but this does work well when you're versus Kai'Sa, who you would assume wants a bit of a more dive-oriented team. But wow, okay, we are making some moves here, because the thing about this this engage comp here for Mythos is that you don't need to like pick the Maokai this early on, which really signals that you're going for disengage. You still have a few ways to play out the Lily and the Ezreal, but you don't really want to blind disengage, right? You want to play disengage into surprisingly engage, and to go for the disengage this early, it just gives a lot of options over to Nerd Rage. But interesting enough, Nerd Rage just pick up the blind Lucian, which means again your jungle pool is getting very thin at this point.
Yeah, it is. I've just had confirmation, checking out Nerd Rage's Twitter as well. This is the Magikarp that usually plays jungle, but Magikarp is playing Marksman this game. And Spray will be moving into the jungle, filling in there. So, and this is very, very interesting, right? And I'm excited to see how this is, because Magikarp has been one of those players that people have been very impressed by this season. Flajian has been a player that has been very impressive this season, not just people saying it, but has been maybe the best support we've had in the league so far. And how are they going to be able to interact in a role that Magikarp is maybe not used to playing on this roster at the very least?
Wow. We'll have to wait and see. More jungle bans. Wait, no, I read it the wrong way around. I thought that the Hecarim and the Udyr were just panned out by Nerd Rage. Of course, they do still have the option to throw Gragas down into the jungle position, right? Instead of running out of support, but you do always get a little bit out farmed then by the Lilia. But with even more picks taken off the table, I think that starts to become some of your only options there for Spray. And again, Spray is, as we're now saying that there's been a bit of shenanigans in terms of this jungle order, we have to wonder if Spray has that deep of a pool. We talk about Magikarp have his issues on the, or if he does have issues down playing in that bot lane, but what about Spray playing up in this jungle? Because that is a bit of a weird one.
Yeah, it's an Evelyn being locked in for Spray. You've got to imagine, don't take Evelyn anywhere else. It's not good. But definitely a unique pickup that they've gone for there. And it's going to be the Varus being locked in as well, with the Ezreal in the roster already. Things are definitely heating up. My eyes turned to our production chat just to make sure that nothing's amiss.
Could well be a Varus mid. Get that one going on, but I'm not 100% sure how that does into Lucian. I think that can be pretty rough, but he also outranges in terms of basic attacks, so maybe it's an okay matchup for the Varus mid. And then I really actually like the set here, because now you have a double flex with your top and your support, so you can hopefully find your way into a counter matchup down there, as I do believe that the set has a pretty good time versus Gragas, so whichever lane the Gragas goes in, that's the one we will see the set.
Yeah, it could be a case of just countering and following the Gragas wherever he may go. We'll have confirmation of the final lock-in. It will be the Nautilus, which on a very technical level is also a double flex, but not really. The Nautilus doesn't really like playing top anymore. So it will be the Gragas top, and as you say, it's Sheila picking up the set to go up against Mashek on that one. So getting the counter very early on in draft, technically, and being able to flex champions around in different roles is very, very good. Of course, the set being picked up as that final pickup, maybe providing questions for Nerd Rage to answer, and it looks like they haven't done so in terms of the 1v1, but their composition is also very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird one. The thing with this comp here from Mythos is that it's very, disengage heavy, very poke heavy, but there's not really any... it's usually something you want to play into the engage yourself. when you're running that kind of disengaged comp. But Nerd Rage aren't really looking for engage either. I don't really know what Nerd Rage are looking for, other than maybe the occasional pick here and there, which will be very hard to find. But this just looks like with the Lucian and Evelynn, these are sort of two like individual champions, right? It's hard to see how this team fight ever really goes for Nerd Rage. So what I would have liked to have seen from the Nerd Rage comp instead would just be send the Gragas bot, accept you got countered, and then just pick like Camille top, right? And Camille can have a fine matchup versus either of those champions and get yourself a split push threat, because you need something that can draw people away from this poke group, right? When you look over here at Mythos. If Mythos are allowed to just stand as 5 people next to the Baron, you are not getting anywhere near it if you're Nerd Rage. And with the way that Nerd Rage's comp has played out, that looks like it's sort of how this is going to go.
I want to talk to you about Evelynn, Mr. Doctor. You're a jungle player.
Yeah.
How does Evelynn do in comp?
Better than people would think, especially when piloted by a proficient Evelynn player. Right? There's a lot of Evelynn one-tricks that have been around the scene in comp that have picked her up. But right now, and especially on 11.4, not great. Like, Eve was already in a pretty bad spot coming into this season because she was really reliant on Runic Echoes.
Yeah.
How cheap it was and how much it helped her clear. Now she doesn't have strong early game, so she can't really contest crabs too well or fight for prio too well. She can't contest an invade from a champion like a Lilia or an Udyr or a Hecarim. And then, because of that, she just starts to fall behind in golden experience. Like, you have the Lilia will just be absolutely power farming. She'll be farming faster than the Evelynn, and a few well-placed invades mean that you start getting 1 or 2 camp advantages on the Lilia. Then suddenly Lilia's camps are spawning at better times compared to the Evelynn, so Lilia's getting more experience in that way. And then you hit level 6 first, and you run, and you kill the Evelynn, her jungle, and so on and so forth. And on top of that, you have this long-range mid lane. I'm really interested to see how this matchup goes, because if Zyx is playing it very aggressively, I could see a world where you would win that. But with the Evelynn jungle, I don't think that you can play as aggressively as you would want to as the Lucian, compared to if you had something like an Olaf who could be there to cover for you, to shadow you, and allow you to make those forward dashes. When the Evelynn can't back up for that, this means the Varus can play a little bit further up than you might like. Maybe the Varus can use his range advantage to get some pro, get some push going, and then now you're suddenly the one in the 2v1 in your jungle, despite the fact that you have Lucian mid.
Yeah, it's a fascinating pickup. I guess comfort is the answer to the question of why this one has been selected in this composition, as opposed to something more traditional or even something less traditional that builds into the comp a little bit better. If you're going for pick with a little bit of CC, there are champions in the jungle that do facilitate that. Or even you talked about a split push threat being available for Nerd Rage. If they were already set on this Nautilus and this Gragas, then maybe they can find some kind of split pusher in the jungle, but you don't really want to traditionally want to do that because of the smite. It's interesting. We'll have to see how it plays off. I'm not super convinced by it currently, even with proficiency, but Evelynn's the kind of champion that seems to be able to take over games very easily if they get ahead. But in composition where communication is much better, warding is much better, and a lot of CC is available. Yeah.
No, Eve can still do good conceptually in comp, just by virtue of being a walking invisible ward. Right? There's a lot of threat put out by just the fact that Evelynn exists in the game. Doesn't matter how good your vision is, you have to be a little bit scared. And on top of that, there's a limit on the pinks you can place. So even if there's a lot of pinks on the map, Evelynn can still find a way around them, or she's just acting as a tax that everyone has to buy 2 pinks and place those 2 pinks every time. So you're just suddenly draining whatever it's 750 gold from the enemy team every time they reset, because they have to go and buy 10 pinks. So that is worth considering, but again, it's very complicated, and you have to be, as the Evelynn, very, very comfortable with it, and then also the team has to know how you play around it, because it's a very different type of jungler, and it sort of warps the game around the Evelynn just a little bit. So again, very hard to execute here, and that's a cleanse in the mid lane for Zyx as well. So that's 1 split pusher taken off the table.
Not particularly interested in going for that teleport, but we're onto the Rift, and Nerd Rage are onto a ward as they look for the 5-member invade. Won't be able to find it with the ward vision and all the information being set up as a Gentile Arcraft are hanging around in the bot side. Of course, Maokai going to make things a little bit interesting with those saplings, but a Gentile actually hanging around in the bush could potentially be caught out, but with all the information, unlikely to, and the saplings are just going to get a little bit of an ambush, a little bit of damage across the members of Nerd Rage and forcing resets most likely. But Arcraft not able to get too much vision in, has to throw a sapling. Will it stop recalls? It will stop all 5 as members of Nerd Rage have to awkwardly walk out of the jungle. Nice play there from Arcraft early. And then the top side, a counter invade's going on.
Yeah, but you have never seen such value from saplings in your life. Arcraft is wishing that he took the Spell Thief item instead of a Targans. But, as you say, because this spots out and buys so much time, stopping those resets, Dunlossie and Sheeta can just go ahead and grab this red buff. They get lots of vision down, and I think you have to see this one coming. If you're Spray, you see he moves over and starting on his red buff, but he can't move over, he can't match this invade at all. Nobody was able to get any vision on this top side, so they can't be 100% certain how Dunlossie's pathing it. So this is a really, really, really strong start for the Lilia, and there's nothing really that Spray can do to respond.
Oh, Flagian looking for the early bit of poke down with that anchor, but going to take a decent amount from a Gentile on the back end of that one. Not going to be hit with a Q, so feeling okay, but as you say, keep your eyes on the Evelyn and how the response comes through from Spray, because we've seen Spray play before in this Nerd Rage roster. I can't remember the exact specifics of that game. I'll have to call on the UKEL historians for that one, but moving in, trying to get a counter jungle of their own, but gonna find the Raptors, should be able to secure these ones, but Lilia's already en route with those wolves in tow. Obviously, knowing something's up because of that ward place, that Evelyn gonna be able to get the little ones, might not be able to get the big ones, and could be collapsed on, as it's gonna be Varus as the first responder. Man Robber looking for a bit of damage. Arcraft here as well, flashing with those roots, and will be able to pick up first blood for Dunlossie, who's gonna also be able to save that big Raptor.
Again, great from Mythos. They had the ward that they needed down there to spot that out, and great path from Dunlossie as well. Pick up the 2 small wolves to make sure you come on in with that level 3 spike. Arcraft roaming up as well and collapsing on that play. And now the path from Dunlossie. He's backing up to the top side of the map. He doesn't need his red, doesn't need his Krugs, because he can just look for the double crab instead. And then he's going to have a really strong path back down onto the bottom half of the map.
Gonna be able to find decent pathing there. Gonna be able to find that top scuttle, and Dunlossie we've talked about a lot as being one of these strong junglers. It's, again, with the performances going the way they have, it's been questionable how much of an impact he's been able to have on the overall success of Mythos so far this season, but when they've looked good, Dunlossie has looked good, and giving first blood over to Lilia in this kind of matchup, definitely a nice one for Mythos. Ashik in the top side. On the Graggers, we've seen a lot so far this season. Just going to be farming up. Has loads of CC available. Is Sheeta similar, but going to be a little bit better in the old punching department. A little bit less in the throwing CC around department.
Yeah, well, Gragas throws barrels and Sheeta throws his body. Right?
Yeah.
Goes ahead and look
Well,
at it.
Gragas
I mean, to be
also
fair,
throws his
Gragas does
body.
throw his body too, yeah.
Set doesn't have barrels,
Slow.
though. So,
He hasn't got barrels, he's got guns, am I right, lads? Flex, flex. Bicep, bicep. Gragas has barrels of booze, but I'm a barrel of laughs. It's a bit of a kerfuffle. But Matty, he is level 6.
he has been dragged back. Needs to be careful flashing away. Level 4 of this Gragas so far.
He's
so
not level
gonna have
6,
the ability
he's
to-
level 4.
Are you okay? Doctor, are you good? Like,
No, there was a couple of pixel-related issues for that one. That's 6 and 4. They look very similar. My eyes are not what they used to be.
what do you mean not what they used to be? You're 20.
I mean, they're not what they used to be. Yeah.
Like, you're not old enough to allow to be complaining about your deteriorating. body.
My eyes have gone downhill this year. Like, I got my glasses. I got a vision test like a year ago, no, 2 years ago, and I never actually got the glasses, and so I got another test like a year later because they're like free at my uni, like it was a like student training thing,
Yeah.
and they'd gotten worse, and I was gonna get the glasses, and then lockdown, so I couldn't get the glasses, and then it's been like, I can tell that my vision has for sure gotten worse since then, so I now think I need to go get like another test because my eyes are definitely like half as good as they were when I got the first test or second.
I mean, it's kind of fine because I've seen your match history, so you're blind anyway. Like,
When I look at my
kind of
match
whatever.
history, I think I'm colorblind because it all looks the same to me. A lot of red.
you're colorblind because your screen's just grayscale whenever you play. Oh my word! But slow start to this one, which is a nice change of pace. UKEL known for fast early games and then meandering finishes a lot of the time, and with the slow early game, maybe we'll get a quick ramp up, or maybe it will just be a slow pace throughout the entire game. A nice relaxing game to end our Saturday UKEL action.
Yeah, also nice and slow, letting me finish my toast because I haven't eaten since like 9 or something. I was a very hungry boy. Sprinting out of our tiebreaker and right into casting.
Yeah, of course, you were doing some coaching earlier today. Successful there, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah, we won. We made the tiebreakers. We are now in the Open Tour Benelux closed circuit.
Nice, congratulations to you and mainly your players. They were the ones who actually won the games. You were just alongside.
Yeah. I didn't really do a lot.
Yeah, you know.
I draft Kingdom it. I led a meditation for the first 10 minutes, and I blame everything on that.
What, on the meditation, or?
Yeah, 1v9 mental game.
It's always very interesting to talk to coaches and stuff and see like how much impact coaches believe they have and how much impact players believe coaches have, because there's definitely a difference between the teams in this league that have coaches and those that don't. But you can also see Donlossi just having a bit of fun on the Tomaszek. Will be knocked back with the barrel, but going very, very low. Will be able to belly bop away, but should go down. Donlossi picking up that one. And Lilia able to pick up a nice solo kill in the top side and giving Ichida plenty of time to start punching on that tower.
And a massive wave being sacked there for Masic as well. You see Donlossi just lurking around. He doesn't really have the mana to do a lot here, but they may still be able to look for a bit of action if Masic teleports in. But he comes in. I think the Evelyn hasn't quite been spotted out on that bot side yet. No, missing things coming around, so yeah, they have been seen. So Masic is pretty happy to teleport back up into this one and spray.
Arcraft goes down. The kill will be returned with Man Robbo picking up a snipe. Actually, it's going to be Arcraft securing the kill, which is not necessarily exactly where you wanted the gold to go, with Varus sitting down to assists, but Zyke looking for assistance, has Flagian on the side. Man Robbo actually going to have to flash away from the 1v1, let alone 2v1, but Donlossi going over the wall with the flash, looking for the damage onto Zyke, finds the bowling ball. Can he find the damage? Yes, he can. There's one. Can Flagian find the escape down towards that bot side? Magic up, moving up on the Kaiser. This will be a 2v1, but Flagian's not really a target. Will burn low, will go down. Magic up will be able to secure the kill. Actually won't be able to, as Donlossi goes golden, as the jet down comes through, looking for the damage. Why is this Lilia still alive? Goes down with the final auto, but Magic up falls as well. Spray returning to the fight after being killed in the initial play, but we're not done yet. Man Robbo looking to escape from Mashek, but will only find Spray and gets executed by the Evelyn. It's 6-3 on the scoreline, and we talked about a slow start, but it's definitely ramped up. And
It's exploding out now. Magic coming on his way down there. Magic got misclicked through one shot onto Argentile. Thought that might be the kill, but now Sheida is the one in trouble. Has the W, has the ult.
A lot of trouble. Will ult backwards. Has the shield available. Will he throw it? Yes, he will. Arcraft coming through, but Spray manages to get away for now. Will be going to sleep though. Drowsy slumber party teleport coming through. Can Donlossi get the kill? No. Arcraft's like, I'll grab that one if that's okay. Man, Robbo looking for the snipe. Misses the ultimate. Won't be able to follow any further, but Arcraft, man, you could have left it.
Literally, Arcraft just grabbing the kill there. He reaches on in, backhands her, gives her the suck, and picks up the kill on that one as well. Now we move on in towards top half of the map. Herald, up and about. We got a crab you can do as well. So strong situation for Mythos here, and you can see that Man Robbo is now able to put on a bit of pressure in the mid lane. Get that push, stop Zyke from moving in. Yeah, a lot of gold now starting to go the way of Mythos.
Yes, so much gold going over to them, and I say so much, 2.5k at 10 minutes is an okay gold lead to have. It's not the largest we've seen, but definitely not the smallest, and Ishida moving back onto his top side against Machek has been having a decent time in this matchup. Gragas really being held at bay, and we talk about how Gragas can be very, very helpful in team fights, but Set can also be useful in those situations, and that farm lead and the interactions that they've had so far definitely suggest that it's Mythos who have had the better time up on that top side. Arcraft coming through to make this one a 3v1 tower dive with the Rift Herald here as well. Spray is sneaking on up, but the tower may well be gone before this fight kicks off in earnest. It's still shooting. It's still there. It's still holding. The Maokai will get the first tower and help pick up the kill, with Donlossi picking up that one with the kill. Credit Zyke moves up. The ultimate coming down from Nautilus will catch out Arcraft, who will die diving in to try and slow Members. It's actually a shutdown onto the Maokai because of all the kills that he's picked up so far. It will be a 1-for-1 trade, but the tower does fall.
Making sure to pick that one up, getting the plates as well. So Thanks, that is 1-for-1, but the gold's still in favour of Mythos now. Dunlossie has a whole load of camps to clear as he makes his way down towards this Infernal Drake. And it's a bit of a weird window here for Mythos because Dunlossie is sitting on a lot of gold. Just going to reset, but he is about like 5 seconds late for this Drake. But honestly, with the current state of the game, I don't think Nerd Rage are trying to rush this one on spawn, so Dunlossie should get away with it.
Should be able to sneak away without losing out too much. And you can see Flagian hanging around this dragon as it will spawn onto the map, but Nautilus isn't soloing, especially support Nautilus, but Spray in the area. Magikarp trying to gain priority bot lane. Gonna have a difficult time doing that against the Ezreal, who's just gonna be able to poke and farm safely, but Edge Sheeta comes through, Man Robo comes through, Arcraft hanging around. You can even see Dunlossie moving on down, so all 5 members on this dragon. It should be secured by Mythos without any kind of contest, and the Infernal goes over to them. It's going to be a Mountain Rift this time around, so tanks are going to be loving life, and damage dealers are going to be scratching their heads.
I mean, there are a couple of tanks coming through on this game, and a couple of people that don't want the Mountain Drake to exist, because again, there is an Evelyn. Very much on the assassin side of this here spectrum, whilst we have Poke.
Dunlossie very much on the killing Lucian side of the spectrum, picking up the kill very, very easily with a little assistance from Man Robo. And moving towards this bot side, Gentile needs to be careful, will be caught out by the anchor and goes down so quickly. Maokai trying to get those roots down, will be able to find it, and now the damage coming through onto Flagian. He's a Nautilus, but he's not that tanky as Dunlossie jumps in and helps Man Robo pick up the Spiral Spray. Tries to find a way out, will be able to do so with the ultimate, but is burning with the Ignite. One snipe would have been enough, but Spray able to flash away from that one. The trade is 1-for-1 at the end, but we might not be done as Magikarp hanging around over the wall, but can't find a snipe and isn't confident doing so with Arcraft throwing saplings at their head. Everyone's going to be backing away. Magic in the top side. Needs to be a little careful with this set hanging around, but should be okay for now.
Yeah, keeping that one relatively nice and safe, and couple of towers still standing. However, the plates will be falling off relatively soon. Mythos not going to be able to grab any of those, but they are, for all intents and purposes, chilling. You can see that the builds are coming together. Agent now has got himself the Essence Reaver, working now on his Dustblade. We've got the Dustblade, I can assume, being finished. Yep, there it is. Man Robert grabbing that one in the mid lane. Sonya's was picked up by Dunlossie a while ago, so very happy if you are Mythos right now to just continue along this trajectory, as Magikarp is lurking around. I don't think he actually wins this fight, though.
Yeah, he's trying for it. Gentile needs to be careful. Will be hit by a snipe to make it a very even health bar situation. Arcraft will be coming down alongside Flagian, both supports checking in on their marksman, just making sure that everything's okay. They're not being bullied too hard and clearing out the wave.
That's a really big bluff from Magikarp. Now, yeah, he fell for it because Magikarp had no mana, was in the middle of the enemy wave, so the Acathian Rain was spreading out between minions as well, and the item advantage was on the Ezreal, but I think a Gentile thought, there's no way that the Kaiser is going to commit to this fight. And thought, there has to be some sort of bait here. Someone's lurking. Someone else is in that bush, you know, and backs off. But no, it actually was just a free kill. But in the case Magikarp's allowed to reset the wave recalls, and now it's picked up the Mythic as well.
It's one of those plays where making it once, Magikarp's like, haha, perfect. But making it again could yield very different results in terms of Ezreal just turning around and getting some damage down. And 40 minutes, 15 minutes, the plates are now off. We can check in with gold. Mythos have themselves a nice 4k gold lead, almost coming up to.
And called it that.
Spray coming through, looking for Man Robbo, going to get ulted, and Evelyn having a bad time, has to ult away once again, not really able to get the damage down, but Dunlossie picks up one Zyke, could be in trouble. A lot of damage coming down, and there's the dunk. It's Sheeta trying to chase on tanky and damage. He picks up the kill. Flagian on the side, trying to find a way out, but just runs into set. Dunlossie there as well for the damage, and Flagian goes down after getting the ultimate down onto a Dunlossie statue, which isn't going to do too much damage. Nice barrel from Mashek, but won't be able to knock the Lilia into the other barrel. So not going to be able to pick up the kill on the side there, but things looking really, really great for Mythos this game. Trying to engage onto its Sheeta, but Machek doesn't have the damage to do so. The CC is nice, but it's not going to be able to catch out and one-shot the set. And members of Mythos can get a little bit of chip damage on that mid tower before going away. Magikarp on the side gets caught out by a sapling and won't be able to find a flank.
Man, this is exactly the fights that Mythos want with this poke competition. Yeah, play us though, poke people out. If anyone oversteps, you can look to commit on them a bit harder. And when Nerve Rage are as split as that, where they can't get a straight up 5v5 into this comp, life gets very difficult. Even if you can get that fight, you have the disengage of the showstopper, of the Lilting Lullaby, of the Twisted Advance, Grasping Roots, whatever the Maokai ultimate is called. It's a real rough time for Nerd Rage. Their comp isn't even suited for that kind of 5v5, even if they could find it. So Mythos very happy still picking up that tower and now looking on towards this Herald.
Stepping up towards it, Flagian has the vision control over it and will be starting it up. Sprain moving down as well. Zyke need to be careful as Manrobo throwing a bit of poke down. We haven't talked very much about Manrobo as we do look towards an engage onto Ishina. Going to be rooted up and Set going to be able to stumble away, but only for a second. Zyke on the side. It's a 4v1 and Set's tanky, but it's Set that tanky. Magikarp comes in to make it a clean 5v1, picking up the kill onto Set. But the damage onto Zyke and Flagian is pretty worrying. And yes, this Rit Herald will go down to Nerd Rage uncontested, but that's because Mythos are looking towards this third dragon of the game. Second for them, and the first mountain that will be secured.
Okay, so yeah, Mythos decide they don't want to play for that Herald. Instead, grab a bot tower and, as you say, work on their second dragon here, this mountain. Because getting mountain drakes is very important in this game. Mythos with 2 lethality builders obviously want to deny those away from the Nautilus and from the Gragas. And likewise, you want to have those extra resistances. Wait, what?
I'm Robert, you know, American Sniper.
He sniped someone out. Alright, got him. Also using his ultimate, I do believe, at that point. But hey-ho, something happened there. Magikarp doesn't have sums. Oh, it does have sums, so... maybe it was just a snipe. Not sure. But, in any case, you want to have the... you want to have yourself that Mountain Drake when you're up against an Evelynn, always. And having the extra shield as well when you're playing a poke comp yourself is just real nice.
Yeah, it's excellent news for Mythos that this is the soul that they're able to pick up. But, I mean, it's good news that this is the soul and they're the ones who have control over it, right? Because, as you said, if Nerd Rage had control, lethality builders are going to be pretty sad about the whole situation. But right now, it's only really Spray who's exceptionally sad about the situation with this soul. And we'll see. Bowling with Lilia, not going to land a strike that time, and Machek moving into the side. I can feel a play being considered by both teams as poke is coming down. Zyke will be caught out and could well be put into the Lilting Lullaby. Damage coming through from Dunlossy, but remember the cleanse is available on the Lucian. Just going to be chased away as another bowling ball lands. As well, Seed, of course. I want to see a bowling Lilia skin. I think that would be a good one. Is Magikarp. Ooh, decent chunk of damage coming through from Manrobo.
And that's sort of the name of the game here for Mythos coming in. Decent chunk of damage coming through. That's basically where we're at when these skill shots start landing. And Agent now hasn't even finished his Dustblade up yet, so keep your eyes on that one. When that gets finished, that's going to be a whole world of hurt being dished out as Mythos are happy to play this one again, continually slow, wait up for that Baron, maybe find themselves a couple of kills here in the enemy jungle.
Flagian has looked for the re-engage. Magikarp on the side looking for the damage, but Flagian has already been deleted on the bottom. Manrobo in a lot of trouble though. Spray gets the shutdown assassination, but now the Evelynn is being chased on. Lossy going to look for that one. Should be able to pick up the 1v1 kill against the Evelynn, who has the ultimate. Double kill coming in for the Lilia. It's a 2-for-1 right now as Magikarp cleaning up these Krugs. Might be caught out if he's not careful, but should be able to slide away towards topside. Machek is there to make sure that no dives come through, and actually getting engaged onto Ishida, who's going to drag back the Gragas, and Machek will be the one who goes down. Not able to keep himself alive, but Magikarp is able to slip away. But with that nice exchange, Zyke just hanging around mid lane, trying to get some damage on the tower, watching the rest of his team have a pretty rough time in the top side, and full recalls across the board from Mythos means that Zyke may actually not be punished for this.
Yeah, he's going to get away with it, pick up that tower, but cannot say the same for the rest of the squad. Mythos managed to put themselves up a couple of kills over on the other half of the map. Baron now up and available. Should be the focus of Mythos' affections. They want to grab that one before the mountain comes up onto the map, and they'll be able to set up a pretty strong position around this here objective, as right now they want to clear out a couple of the wards that have been placed. Shida, buddy, you are standing on a ward. You can see it. Wait, is it a normal ward?
It is.
I can't tell if that ward is being turned off or not. It is being turned off. Okay, I thought it was a pink.
That's a blue and it's being turned off, I believe.
Ah.
So, or zombie.
My pixels.
One of the two. But either way, it's not seeing
Zombies
anything
have
right
a
now.
timer. Yeah, we're chilling. Oh, it was a blue. Yeah, you're right. How does he do it?
Well, I look at the map. I have 20/20 vision. And I just,
I have 20/20 pixels.
you know, that's...
What?
So we both got stuff going
like
for us,
20
is what
by
I'm saying.
20, just to clarify. Like,
Just 20 pixels, you know? Dunlossie looking towards the
Such
side,
is
as
life.
Lilia has been monstrous this game so far. 9, 1, and 6 on this one, and able to get so much damage as Flagian looking for the engage. We'll be able to find the knock-up onto Man Robber, and there comes the culling. Not going to do too much. Dunlossie has to go golden. Arcraft on the side, missing the ultimate, but will be using it to zone away as Ishida dives in and throws the Gragas back towards the team. He's going to be able to flash over the wall, though, and look for the escape. Zyke going to be pinned up, but does have the cleanse available, but doesn't even need to use it, as he feels pretty safe on the side. Dunlossie goes low. Dunlossie goes down, shut down onto Spray, but going to be deleted immediately afterwards, and now they've dived onto Zyke, who will use the cleanse this time. Will try and slide away, but the ignite is rolling. Will the damage be enough? I don't think it will be if Zyke can get towards these minions. Has the pot rolling as well, meaning that Lucian does survive. Very even fight this time around, but it's still 3-for-1 on the side of Mythos.
And now what's the next move for Mythos? Because they overchased a little bit on that one, trying to find those kills on the bottom half of the map, and I think because of that they won't be able to look for the Baron this time around. So even though the fight is in Mythos' favour, that overchase means that Nerdrage have a little bit of breathing room, because Mythos do not want to concede this here Mountain Drake. However, bot lane still haven't reset after that fight, so they'll be coming on to this fight with a fair bit of gold in their pockets, not in their inventories, but they still seem to have the advantage over their men on their counter side.
Does seem to have the advantage. Barrel being used, with Mashak in a lot of trouble, will be deleted. Arcraft once again slapping Gragas down, picking up another kill, and Flagian having to escape from the dragon area before he goes the same way. 5 members of Mythos hanging around this dragon will be able to secure this one. It's not the soul just yet, but setting themselves up for that one in 5 minutes time with this secure, and it's going harder and harder for Spray to get assassinations off.
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty hard since literally level 1 for Spray off the back of that start. And oh yeah, if he wants to try and find anyone out, they are going to have a pretty fair amount of magic resist to work with. However, nobody's actually built magic resist yet in terms of the squishies of Mythos, so that's always nice, at least for Spray, that it's a % magic resist buff, and when the flat value is low, the % isn't that much higher. So he still has a slight window, but you can see picking himself up that Lich Bane, adding into his front-loaded burst, but there's even a Edge of Night there on Man Robber, so it's really just a Gentile that is in any sort of risk.
And, you know, just has to Arcane Shift away. Or
Yeah.
have some peel from any number of the champions with CC.
Which in this comp is quite a few. It's almost like that's the point.
It is almost like that's the point. And a Gentile having a pretty decent game as well, and that, yeah, as I was saying, having a pretty decent game, taking down Zyke on the Lucian, will be able to pick up the Baron as well, potentially, but Spray hanging around over the wall. Flagian there as well. Magikarp has some damage, looking for the red buff before this fight kicks off, though, and I don't know if they can take this fight. It's Sheeta moving through Tribush, trying to catch out Spray. Will be able to find them and forcing them to ult over the wall, but Man Robber has peeled off. He was peeling off on all sides, actually. Arcraft dives over to pick up another kill on the Maokai. Dunlossie, the only one with Smite available now. Magikarp getting the damage down, but won't be able to secure the Dragon. Actually going to be secured by Man Robbo on the Varus. On the bot side, you can see Madcheck picking up some damage on this bot tower. Might be able to secure it, actually, but not worth it with Baron going on to 5 members of Mythos.
Yeah, I mean, take what you can get, but it's not the best of trades. Magic is not found out
Happy
by the
feet.
Rolling Ball. Got away from that one, but you might be found out by Sheeta. He's got himself some Swifties to run into this. Rocking the fleet, but won't find all too much. Instead, just clear on out that wave. And now, if you are Mythos, you just sprint it on mid. You just go as 5 people. Doesn't matter that you've got your teleport up on your Varus. Doesn't matter that you don't have it up on Sheeta, because even if they did have it, he would not be splitting. You are just going as a death ball with your poke and picking up kills, just as we saw onto Zyche.
And it looks like they're going to be doing kind of what you said. They're moving towards the bot lane, going to be pushing up this one instead, and have the minion wave to do so. Arcraft setting up the jungle for a bad time. Anyone who walks into that one will be running into some of Maokai's mates, who aren't really too happy to see them, and are going to be poked down further and further. And this poke composition definitely working out for Mythos right now, throwing all of the abilities through, and members of Nerd Rage have to have their dancing shoes on. Flagian didn't have it there. It takes a decent chunk of damage, well below half health, as he's forced to back away. The minions coming through as well means that this tower is likely to be toast. And there's the True Shot Barrage coming through, breaking through the shield, stopping the teleport. The recall from Nautilus, sorry about that one. And Man Robbo stepping forward, supplying more damage, and this is the thing where the poke is good, but the tower taking is just as good because of their double AD.
Yeah, I mean, they are setting themselves up for success here. Moving on through, grab themselves a nice little inhibitor as well, and again, with this Nerd Rage comp, there's really just not a lot that they can do. Spray lurking around the side wants to try and find a pick, but that pink ward well placed and a well placed ult.
Lots of damage coming through as the Evelynn goes to sleep permanently. A Gentile picking up that one as the mid lane inhibitor might be the second target. They do have a minion wave moving in. It's a little bit weaker, but they've got reinforcements coming up behind, and the second inhibitor tower crumbles. The second inhibitor will explode, and actually Mythos could potentially look to force through if they so desire. They've got a big wave coming through with them. They've got the damage. It's a 4v5, and True Shot Barrage not going to land on anyone as Flagian can't find the re-engage. Bottom tower on the Nexus will be taken below half health, will be taken very, very low as the culling takes Sheeta to about the same health. The tower is still being peppered by those minions. Keep an eye on it as it will crumble. There's only one to fight under for Nerd Rage right now, but teleports coming back for Varus means that he can recall and look to rejoin the fight with full health, with maybe an extra item in his pocket, and respawns from Nerd Rage might not be enough. The second Nexus tower is below half health. Magic looking for the engage, goes gold, and members of Nerd Rage trying to find a way back in, but they just can't do so as the Gragas' body is bonked into the rest of the team. Spray goes down, Flagian follows, and the Nexus tower will be taken. Zyke slides back onto the fountain, but it's just not going to matter that the Lucian gets out. Triple kill for Lilia epitomizes the game as Mythos pick up a decisive win.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, there's just a little bit of a diffy in the driffy, and then after that, we've got a bit of a diffy in the execution-y as well, with Mythos playing that one out pretty much to perfection. A very nice, interesting comp. I wonder if that's going to start turning up a little bit more. You get these poke comps coming through with Lilia being so strong, and with the Varus buffs, we've got Ezreal looking for a lethality build as well. Maybe this is something we could see a little bit more of across the rest of 11.4, and it's something we haven't seen for a while, so I'm kind of here for it.
I'm looking at the damage numbers that we've just been sent through. Varus getting the
pretty
top
high
numbers, and it's, yeah, that kind of composition. It's not something that we've traditionally seen from teams in the UKEL. It's something a little bit different, and it looked really, really good. It was really entertaining to watch as well, and if you're on the side of Nerd Rage, it must have been super frustrating because there was really nothing that could be done. And yes, we can talk about being set behind in the jungle early, and Spray not being able to really get into the game, also picking Evelynn, which isn't the best at getting into the game, and then there's the dragons, which make things harder for the assassin to come through. But even with that not being the case, there was no way of anyone from Nerd Rage to get really into the fight and cause damage.
No.
They were always half health under tower, because that's just how it is. And if they backed away from objectives, they got melted through by the double AD. So, also Dunlossy's a monster. You know, there's a lot going for Mythos right now, and with that win, they're going to be going a little bit further away from the relegation area. They're still very much in this relegation scrap that we found ourselves at the bottom half of the table, but because of the way that the UKEL is this split, avoiding relegation is playoffs. And avoiding relegation by like 2 wins, potentially, it could be at the end of the season, gets you into the top half. So, Mythos looked impressive today, and I want to see them do the same next week. Maybe not with the exact same team composition, although if it works, maybe try the same team composition again if the other team doesn't know how to play against it. But they were very, very decisive and very confident in that win.
Yeah, and I'll say that. I just looked up, and Mythos, well, they also played in the first day of the season, and they pulled out a comp that I was casting in that game that was really disgusting as well, which was like very heavy on the disengage front, right? It was Soraka, Maokai bot, and then they had Cho'Gath and Anivia as their top jungle with Graves in the mid lane, and they fit that into a very hard engaged comp from Munster. And I really liked that comp because I thought that was just really well put together in terms of how they had multiple flexes, so they could open up for similar avenues that we saw in this game, and they understood like the various elements that you need to make a comp like that come together. And now they're doing it again here, so I'm liking whoever's in charge of the drafts here for Mythos, because they're very... A lot of times when people look to make these kinds of comps, especially disengage and poke, which are a little bit harder to execute on because you make one mistake, or if you're so used to playing an aggressive or engaged type comp and you get this kind of composition instead and you make a misplay, it all suddenly goes very downhill. I like they are covering all of the bases that you need to. For example, when people do things like Karma Seraphine bot, you do need to actually have like a Graves or a Kindred as a damage threat. Right? When you pick something like this for poke comp, you do need to make sure that you have someone who can get some sort of like early lead when you tend to be slightly weaker in lane and have a little bit less on the sort of prior side, and especially make sure you have someone as a disengaged front line, right? It can't all be things, like the Lilia ult. You have to have like a set in there, for example. So I'm very happy, actually. I like this a lot.
Maybe
Good times, Mythos.
Someone at Mythos knows what they're doing when it comes to drafting.
Yeah.
So that's always good news. But the bad news is that is all we've got time for here at the UKEL. But there's been plenty of awesome action. If you've only been watching the last couple of games, make sure to pick up the first couple because there was some insane stuff going on there as well. But for everyone here at the UKEL, myself, Viperune, and Doctor, thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you next Thursday for more UKEL action.